Good afternoon, everyone. Extremely sorry for the behind the schedule. We are starting our seventh academic session, and may I request Dr. Grace Darling, Associate Professor, Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University, to convene the session. And also, with pleasure, I invite Professor Madhuchandra Sen for share the session. And we have three speakers now. First of all, I'll just call upon Professor Tripti Dhar and Professor Inakshi Mitra and Professor Satya Sundar Shetty. Come over to the dais. We will begin with the felicitation. First of all, I would like to request Dr. Kalpana Yadav to felicitate our chairperson, Professor Madhu Chandra Sen, ma'am. And I would like to request Dr. Priyanka Mishra, ma'am, to felicitate Professor Inakshi Mitra. And again, I would like to invite our convener, Grace Darling, ma'am, to felicitate Tripti Dhar, ma'am. Take a photo. And I request Professor Bagde, sir, to felicitate Professor Satya Sundar Shetty, sir. Then I'm hand over mic to our Grace Darling, ma'am.
I once again welcome each and everyone into this afternoon session. And as we are slightly running behind time, um, the time division will be like, since ma'am and all came from far, it's not very fair to give very short time and to just scrap it off as well. So, but maybe if you can kindly manage within 10 to 15 minutes, how will it be? 10 is too little. 10 to 15 minutes? Yes. Asking for 20 minutes presentation.
Because actually in my session there will be only one seat. 25 minutes then. After the free session or free presentation, we can have that. Can we take 25 minutes? Oh, yes.
Okay, very good then. One session will not be having, it seems, so we can adjust well. And so now may I request our first speaker, Professor Dr. Tripti Dhar. She is a professor in the Department of Philosophy and you're also a director. Huh. Are you also a director? Yes, yes, Director, Center for Buddhist Studies, Raiganj University, West Bengal. So without wasting much time, may I request ma'am to kindly come and deliver the lecture, and the question and answer time will be after all three speakers had given lectures, then only we will be having question and answer time, because sometimes it keeps on dragging if we keep on interrupting in between and all that. So if you want to ask question, you please note down by and then you can ask little later. So ma'am, please come over. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Namaskar, pranam to all of you, all the dignitaries, the chairperson, and my co-speakers, and all the students, speaker, and research scholars, and other dignitaries. We are very much delighted that we have organized, or especially this department has organized this kind of seminar, which is most important in this, particularly in this present scenario, present time. I am very much indebted to this department because when I have started my research work on this particular issue, particularly on Bhartihari's philosophy and related with Wittgenstein, Panini, and Chomsky, then I have just have got a paper from Professor Dr. D.N. Tiwari sir, and he has published a paper on ICPR on that time. So in 2008 might be on volume he has published, and it was very vital issue that he has focused on that time. So my PhD work was on that issue, and now I am also not only doing that areas, and it is also I am relating all those issues with the Indian philosophical perspectives also. So just I am going towards to this particular core topic of my area. Just I wanted to relate with the other things also. Uh, from the very beginning, sorry, from the very beginning of our philosophical scenario or Indian philosophical culture, we have seen that they have emphasized on the language. More often we say that is language is word, or we can say a thought. That in Bhagavad Gita itself, Akshanama Karono Hosmi, or in also in the Old Testament, they have also mentioned that in the very beginning there was a word, and word is the God, and God is word. So we can also similar, we can mention, or we can refer all those things with our research work, that how they have identified word with the God, or is any kind of metaphysical relevancy is there or not. So the very beginning, we can say that from the Vedic period itself, language has a very interesting position in our philosophy. It has dual aspects, dual standard. One is in the, say, we can say it has a metaphysical aspects, and another is that in the epistemological sense, it is a very vital role it has played. So, from the Paninian aspect, if we say in the Astadhyayi, uh, Panini itself has mentioned language epistemologically in a very systematic way he has presented to us. So, all aspects of the world or human experience were thought is illustrated in this language that he has emphasized in his Astadhyayi. And Jashko and other Patanjali, all of them has clearly mentioned or explained this issue, how language is related with the epistemologically. We can emphasize on the systematic part or the syntactic part of it. Now my paper is on semantic and syntactic structure of language. So before going this issue, we can say semantic is the uh, is a kind of meaning oriented area, and syntax is the syntactic or we can structural area of language. So in Bhartihari and in Panini, if we relate with both of them, their philosophy, Ostadhyay and itself in Bakkapadiyo itself, we can say that both of them has very clearly, structurally, the language they have established. And the other thing is that before them, Bhartihari was the fellow of those areas of Paninian schools also, but he has given emphasis on the metaphysical part also. So how he has, Motilal itself in his book has mentioned that before Bhartihari, no one was there who has established the metaphysical status of language. So to point out that thing, Bhartihari itself given emphasis on language, the metaphysical part as well as the epistemological part, or we can say the agamo areas or the pramano areas. So in all languages, we see that sentences are structured in a certain specific areas or ways. Then a question arises that in the linguistically, if we say that the word syntax is the study of the rules, we know that they govern the way how the words in a sentence come together. Is there any specific rules are there or not? Is there any universal rules are there or not in any every sentences? All these issues are there in our philosophy of language. It is very difficult to answer all those questions in the direct way. In fact, it is impossible to answer what is the structure itself, because without actually constructing a theory of syntax, we cannot define the concept of structure. Semantics as well as is a study of meaning of words, phrases or sentences. In the field of linguistics, semantics is generally considered to be the study of meaning, generally, because whereas the field of logic, it is generally considered as a linguistic reference or a denotation or truth conditions in languages. If we go to the Western philosophy, we can see the referential theory, correspondence theories, all those are theories are there, and we can truth functionally define a sentence is true or false. That type of things are there. So epistemological language is truth functional. We generally, as philosopher, we mostly believe that. And Bhartihari's contribution to language theory is very much remarkable and real in this sense that he has emphasized three components: syntax, semantics, and phonological part. Before my lecture, I have seen several discussions has been going on that particular area, but they have not, often they have used phonology itself. I might be so, because phonology is that very vital issue, that is, it is related with the Varna, that Bhartihari has used that term Varna. So there are three components. If we see in the in the level of Bhartihari's Bakkapadiyo, he accepts grammar as a means to comprehend the total reality of things, which is the nature of the purest light. That is, he has emphasized on that way that grammar is the stepping stone. We can say there are several steps, like we say different Vedangas are there, six kinds of Vedas there, and if we go through all those Vedangas, we can comprehend the total reality. Though it is very impossible for as a ordinary people, but he has emphasized on particular that areas that he shows us that if a person, well-known person in grammar, they can comprehend all those things. His basic principle is Bhyakarana is the intimately connected with all ultimate reality or Shabda Brahman. Grammar helps to understand the deep structure of language, which is the only source for understanding human culture in different times. Yesterday, Madam has also discussed on this particular topic on culture, understanding of culture, all those areas. It is very important to understand the grammar, to understand the culture of a particular region particular areas of people. So it's very important. He describes Brahman as true, pure. So he has used a term Omkar or Pronobo. The relation between these two objects, Brahman and Omkar, is like the relation between Bacho and Bachoko. Bacho is that significant and Bachoko is the signifier. Here, Vidya is Brahman, Vedo is the Shastra, where we get the knowledge of Brahman. So we can say Bhartihari's philosophy can be divided into Bacho and Bachoko. That is, one is comprehending, someone is comprehending, some people, or Karta or Karma, that kind of division is there. The universe is described as consisting of three things. The experiencer, Bhokta, the things experienced, and the experience is self. So this kind of relations is existing in both theories, philosophy itself. It is the same that Bach, which constitutes universe consisting of the individual experiences, including speakers, the object, the phenomena of experience, and the experience itself. Bhartihari was concerned about jati, drobbo, sadhana, kriya, dik, and kalo. These words he has used in his 2 volumes of Bhakyapadya to somehow connected them relate with Brahman itself. This ultimate reality has no beginning and end. We all know that. But language is the distinguishing features of human consciousness through which all human knowledge can passes. So at the same time, language is comprehending our all the knowledge. We are obtaining all knowledge in the epistemological level. Language helps us. At the same time, language is taking the role of ultimate reality. So this is very vital role he has played or tried to focus on that area in this Bhakyapadya. Time or kalo is a power of the absolute principle of Shabda Tattva. This term is very important, kalo or time. His analysis of language is a system of meaningful noise and pragmatic tool of communication in a speech community. He holds that a natural language grows and functions within the confines of social organization and history, time and space. If we go to the Paninian philosophy, we will see that Panini's Ashtadhyayi is not a metaphysical and but it is very much epistemological in nature. Since it is not totally related with the subject of philosophy, though his work is based on the linguistic theories. Though Panini did not write any theoretical treatise on language, this AD Ashtadhyayi uses and presupposes the linguistic theories. Paninian Sutras reveal a strong and full-fledged system of linguistic concepts. Panini was not a metaphysician and ordinarily understood he has defined language in context of empirical domain. His AD's total work is based on a particular language that we know that Sanskrit, and therefore all the linguistic philosophers, Patanjali, Kaptayana, Bhartihari had followed Panini and Sutras and quoted them as proof for various kinds of linguistic theories and philosophical concepts. Patanjali for himself, while discussing twofold nature of meaning as universal and particular, quotes Panini himself to quotes Panini and philosophy as an authority for his statement. According to Patanjali, Panini has accepted both universal and particular as the import of word. Panini Sutra is based on the assumption that the primary sense of word is universal, but in another instance, he has mentioned that the primary sense of the word is particular. So, Paninian philosophy, if we go through it, Panini has established a kind of dualistic role he has established. To Panini, every individual thing requires an individual word to express it. Since one word cannot express many things, we all know that word has some sakti, a kind of power by which we are expressing the meaning. So, one word expressing the one meaning, we all know that, and might be 2 or 3. Regarding the relation between semantics and syntax, Bhartihari and Panini both have established the relation, accepted the relation between semantics and syntax, but especially Bhartihari asserts that semantics is closely related, rather intricately aligned with the Sangsarga, means semantics. Meaning can be retained only in the external form of the words, and the relation that exists between a word and its meaning is the significating power or shakti. This sentence meaning is an instantaneous flash or insight or intuition or pratibha. The word is very important, and we can say it a cognitive kind of word he has mentioned here, that is pratibha. It's called instantaneous flash. For understanding the meaning of a word is due to the inherent power of pratibha and shabdabhavana, or linguistic potency present within us. That we all the speakers and hearers, we have the pratibha. That's why we can understand instantaneously. We can understand the others' beings, their intention, their language, and everything. And he elaborates different ways and phases through which his power can be, this power can be realized. The words which the speaker utters, the objects which the words denotes, and the listener are internally related with the ultimate word principle. We born with the bak, that is, which exists within us, and it is identified with the words ourselves. According to him, shabda is identical with spoto and ultimate ground meaning, and it can be manifested through different forms of uttered sounds. Concerning the meaning of word and sentences, Bhartihari says that we cannot understand the meaning of the words or agamo by merely hearing them. We have to use reasoning to determine the meaning, and this does not amount to go against the Vedas. That means everywhere, every time he has emphasized the acceptance of the Vedas, that Vedas is determining the meaning. So in his theory, the words do not directly refer to the objects, but the idea or concept of the object. Bhartihari upholds the view that there are two kinds of meaning that we have already mentioned, that etymological meaning and otherwise is epistemological meaning. That is the best words or roots. He accepts a unique position regarding the problem of sentence meaning, that language moves from direct mystical vision, Pushyanti, Pratibha, and Spoto, or itself, he uses the spoken words, that is Boikhori and Madhyama. One is non-verbal stage, another is pre-verbal stage, and the verbal stage. So 3 stages he has mentioned. He asserts that meaning is dependent on the users and speaker-listener relationship and the capacity of each of them to express this, to comprehend what they are expressing in different particular time. So, similar is the case with Varnas itself. Varna, Bhartihari have described 2 separate kinds of 2 words. That is, one is the constructions, grammatical constructions, and other being invariably used to convey definite sense or meaning. By listening a few words or sentences, someone asks, "What have you said?" And that means there is nothing like a automatic understanding coming out of the words. So according to him, form and object are 2 aspects of the same word, which we treat sometimes separate entities with some hypothetical objects in our mind. Still, these aspects seem to function harmoniously without countering each other through the separation is merely hypothetical. So at the same time, he has mentioned that there is no difference between the words with the kotta or knower. So as all the kinds of meanings are attracted to the outer forms of the words, in the same way, grammar becomes the carrier of all sorts of knowledge. And just going towards the distinction between spoto, dhoni, and nado is important to understand his philosophy also. Nado means, dhoni means when the speaker is uttering a words, nado means the listener when understanding or comprehending the words. So this kind of small distinction is there. Bhartihari shows us the meaning as unit and transferred in different stages of utterances. Bhartihari states sentence meaning is produced by word meanings, and though it is not constituted by its. And in the stanza number 90, we will see that the word karma pada pratyabhasharupo. That means pratyabhasharupo, that word has used here to arises in the intelligence. That is in the case of speech, when the expression of the undivided sentence occurs with the help of the expressive sound and the word meaning expressed by the sequency. So presently, the speech or bacho seems to be divided, that praptarupa vibhagaya, in different parts, noun, verb, all those things, though it is one. And so he told us or defined on that way that culturally, if we are very much equipped, then we can understand what is the division is there or not. Already in the first session, all the speakers has defined the sentence holism. The term is very important, how the sentence, the meaning of the sentence is apprehending by us. Is there any khanda paksha, akhanda paksha, all those things already elaborately they have discussed. So I am not going to that part. I am just going to another part. That is why Bhartihari's philosophy is more relevant in this particular area, particularly related with this topic. For Bhartihari, the word is external manifestation of the mind. He has used a term mind or manusho. Though it can be said that in different objects of the speakers, this research I have published in 2008, but several times had going on, but just I am not going through this work, but just related with this work. So I am just reading to those areas which is mostly relevant with this paper. In Bhartihari's concept of language, it is observed that he treats the concept shabdo as the ultimate concern. At the same time, like other classical systems, he has defined shabdo as a pramano. He identified Brahman with Shabda Tattva itself. It's all know that. Pratibha is the concept which helps the hearer, speaker to comprehend the meaning. It is unique concept and that cannot be defined as it is. So he itself mentioned buddhi of the human being. Bhartihari introduces the term time to explain the nature of the reality he conceives as the a priori condition. The term a priori means already we have. The doctrine time or kalo emphasizing the driving or kalayoti power inherent in Brahman, which is the first cause of bursting forth or worldly phenomena. So even Bhartihari consider two word elements, and both of which is called as photo is all the production, and for him photo is a relation of the word and which lies originally one's mind. It's very important, and which is spoken by speaker and received by the listener through the medium of nado. The word sense and spoto may be treated as a seed in the mind. He described word or spoto as a self-luminous. So spoto or shabdo is the eternal word, and spoto is one and divisionless, but it can be reveal itself differently. So here, just for the reference part, I have using the word spoto, that, and it is related with mind or manosho. Yeah. So Bhartihari is a metaphysical philosopher. We all know that metaphysically he has established language, but his philosophy is more relevant in particularly this scenario also, because scientifically he has defined how our language is evolving, how language we can expressing our meaning, our language, and it is coming from very internal organs from our body. So he has identified language in a very metaphysically identified language, and at the epistemologically he has tried to define the how we are expressing language day-to-day life. So on that way we can say that his theory is more scientific as well as relevant in this particular cognitive part. Basically in this way we can define. Thank you to all of you.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Tripti Dhar, for the good presentation and also keeping the time very well. Now may I request Professor Inakshi Ray Mitra. She is Professor from the Department of Philosophy and Religion from Delhi University. So ma'am will be presenting her paper from there itself.
Is it possible to display the PPT? Yes.
Yeah, I've sent it. I think the scholars should come ahead.
Yeah, it's a good idea if all of you can come ahead,
Sure,
because
why?
if there is an empty space in between you and us, it's not very good for the speakers. It's a little demoralizing.
And forgive me because I'm used to saying these to my students all the time. Is the acoustics okay? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'll just go straight into the paper. You see. Okay. Okay. Should I? Oh,
They want you to send it again.
I'll send it once more.
That's what they're saying.
I send it once more. Okay. This takes up time. That was why I was just. Okay. Anyway, I'll just send it once more.
Are you connected? Okay.
Yeah. What is the email ID, please? Where I send it? Code something, na? COORD. Okay, here it is.
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry for this. I did send it actually. Vijay Lakshmi took it from me, but then I didn't know where she lost touch. So anyway, let me start. See the title of this. You must have seen it in the abstract. It is okay. Indeterminacy of translation, Quine, Bhartihari, and later Wittgenstein. What I do is that I just specifically focus on one article by B.K. Matilal, which is titled How Bhartihari Could Have Responded to Quine's Theory of Indeterminacy of Radical Translation, which you all know, right? Now, Quine and Bhartihari, they are claiming to discard, both of them are claiming to discard meaning. Okay, so second slide. So Quine and Bhartihari, both of them are claiming discard meaning as a separate entity independent of our language. This is a common thing that they share. And so as a result, you see that this would naturally lead to this seems to be the reason for indeterminacy of translation, because meaning is not a language transcendent constant entity, so that you could use different languages as different conveyor belts with that constant language independent meaning can be as if sent through different languages as different as languages themselves, serving as conveyor belts. This cannot be so, because there is an indissoluble blend between language and meaning. So when in the process of translation you try to dissociate a particular meaning from a particular that material specificity of that language, and it means you try to wrench out the meaning from a particular nada, and then by that you destroy the meaning. You destroy the meaning because the blend is indissoluble. So this is the position which both of them share, and this is the ground for their indeterminacy of translation. But the thing is that what Matilal says, that is not the reason, because they have different investments, the nuances of different, that is Bhartihari, Quine, and the reasons for indeterminacy of in the case of Bhartihari is different from that of Quine, and he wants to bring out those differences. And this may be also taken, that is Matilal's paper, a very short paper, can be taken as a critique of Quine from the standpoint of Bhartihari. And you see, and if time permits, I would like to, kind of say a few things about Wittgenstein, because you see, this blend between language and meaning, That is a material specificity of the signs and the meaning. This is also there in Wittgenstein. So that is why, there also seems to be enough ground for some kind of indeterminacy of translation, indeterminacy of meaning, but then Wittgenstein's position would be very, very different from that of, both Quine and Bhartihari. That is what I would like to end with. But let me just, tell you in bullet points that what are the, yeah, sorry, I'm in slide 3, please. I'm in slide 3. And here, you see here, I mean, for Wittgenstein, there won't be anything like absolute determinacy and there won't be anything like absolute indeterminacy. And for Wittgenstein, the indeterminacy is not because, as in the case of Quine, what happens? Same sensory barrage of sensory stimulation, but whenever you see it has to be gleaned as the meaning, then that sensory stimulation gets embedded into some kind of conceptual scheme or interpretative network, and these conceptual schemes are mutually untranslatable. Same sensory stimulation, but the conceptual schemes are mutually different, not mutually untranslatable, but you can never know that what that sensory stimulus is being embedded in. And that constitutes the indeterminacy of translation, though radical translation does happen, but that is the reason for indeterminacy in Quine. For Bhartihari also, there is a blend between the spota and the nada. So you cannot dissociate the meaning from the material specificity. But you see, Matilal says that Bhartihari would allow some kind of overflowing similarity of the spotas. Of course, the spota of the speaker, that the speaker comprehends before he says the word or the utterance. Remember that native's utterance gavagai. That native is, of course, understanding a particular spota before he utters that. And on the part of the hearer, that is the translators, whether one translator, two translators, they first take the word, they first take the nada, and then they apply their own spota to it. But the thing is, of course, the spotas will be different. Though some commentators, the spotas are the same, but the spotas will be different. But what Matilal says, there will be a kind of overlapping similarity between the spotas. And in this way, you see, some kind of communication, though not absolutely determinate translation, because absolute determinate translation is not possible, given the fact that the spota and the nada are blended together. But at the same time, it cannot be absolutely indeterminate also, because the way indeterminacy doesn't pertain to there being the same sensory content and that being formatted by different conceptual schemes, and they are exclusive, mutually exclusive. That is not the reason. I'm still in slide 3. Okay. And for Wittgenstein, okay, I'm so sorry. So for Wittgenstein, you see, it is different. Wittgenstein, what secures the communication is not spota, because you see, Wittgenstein's temperament would not accept anything like a pre-linguistic seed where all language, all infinite permutations and combinations of language are condensed in a spota. Wittgenstein's system would not accept it, and for many other reasons. And for him, you see how communication occurs is a matter of shareability of form of life. Anyway, so if I go to slide number 4, let me confess that I'm absolutely new to Bhartihari. I was only inspired to make this presentation. I did teach Quine and I also work in Wittgenstein, but we had, this is all biographical detail. We had this particular chapter by Matilal in our syllabus. And Professor Mukherjee, he was very enthusiastic, though he didn't teach Indian philosophy, but he made it a point that this paper we taught in the Bhartihari syllabus of Indian philosophy. But though, the Indian philosophy teachers did not actually like that chapter. From then, it was in my memory. Then when this seminar came up, I thought that, okay, let me just, kind of get into this. And so I'm only starting to learn Bhartihari. And when I was reading about this Porter, certain ideas came up, and I'm just trying to share them with you to see. I mean, though this Porter is, at the outset, it is not very intuitively obvious. So I was trying to internalize this Porter to make it available to our common sense intuition. So why is this non-sonorous disposition of sequenceless, partless seed of sound prior to meaning? Because here the being akrama, the distinction between the sequenced utterance and non-sequenced utterance has not come in. And if it hasn't, meaning also hasn't come in. So why accept this? And transcendental, of course. So I was just, kind of arguing with myself that, and this is where I'm sharing this all with you. You can, of course, resist. You can protest if I'm wrong here. See, the sound utterance is something irreplaceable. You see, even for the blind, sound is never substituted. What the braille does, the standard correlation between sound and vision. That is what happens with the so-called, normal people. That we correlate our sound with vision. Now, blind people cannot do it. So what is done, that standard correlation is replaced by a correlation between sound and touch. So sound is never replaced. Braille. So we do not, that often I wonder, that we can emit sound, but we cannot emit color. We cannot emit light from our body. We do not emit skin eruptions in such a systematic manner that they can be a representative systematic set of signs. We can only produce sound. And so we cannot produce taste, we cannot produce color, shape. So it must be in the depths, it must be a long drawn process deep down into something which is non-sound, something which is non-sonorous, which gradually bursts into sound in the upper and the manifest level. So I'm in slide 7 now. Yeah. And why? And of course, we all know this, that it remains as a stable backdrop against the changing things beyond the dhwani, the audible sound patterns produced in sequence. So these change, the word change, the colors change, shape change, but material things, the shabda stays, though the permutation combination shabda stays, and their meaning has not come in. So, but at the same time, you see, a very interesting thing that it is inherently distinguished from noise. We do not need any indoctrination. We do not need any teaching that look, dekho beta, ye tumhara sound hai, ye tumhari noise hai. Nobody, we do not need that to be taught, because you see, and here, and by representing meanings, Porter shows itself. I mean, we may produce noise from our body. It is slide number 6. And you see, many noises that we utter from our body in a natural way, like hiccups, like burps, like many other gnawing of our body, they come out and they merge in the natural events, the natural course. So, but from them, certain noises, certain dhwani, they stay, they are distinguished specially as they do not let themselves be merged in the course of nature. An animal may. If I, utter a word, an animal may merge it, okay, that, it is just a kind of natural burping from my body. But a human, he very naturally, he is able to distinguish it. And there what happens is that there the sound is not merging with the natural course. It reflects back. There you hold the sound back. And there you hold the sound as representing something, which you don't do with your hiccups or your burps in those cases. And this is not learned. This is not learned. So, and Bhartihari, sorry, Motilal would say that can the same spotter be realized in different languages? This is number 9, I think, or number 7, perhaps. Okay, yeah. Can the same spotter be realized in different languages? Motilal says no. And here the indeterminacy comes up, but he says they overlap. But unfortunately, he doesn't give any example. He doesn't give any clarification of the notion of overlap. So there I have to, put my own insights. I do not know whether it is right or wrong, but however, let's see. But before that, yes, if I go to slide number 9, yes, here I have, chosen to be a bit poetical. Sorry, I mean, here you see there is a, let me say what it is, that, this attention is shifted from the things as word represented. You can see language in two ways. You look at things as represented by words. You look at words as representing things. These are only two aspects in which you see things. Or here you see, I mean, when you see the words as meaning representing, then you stop certain sounds as merging, let themselves be swallowed up by this colossal flow of nature, and their sound is got for its own sake. And why I say this? Because Bhartihari says the external audible words, which are employed in the verbal usage, they are merged in the mind after suppressing all assumptions of variations. I say that, different syntax traits is there. Again, it is merging into one. Again, it is kind of unfurling into differentiations. Again, into merging into sputa. All the time, this is happening. All the time, this is happening. So, and he says that, it is merged in the mind after, this is 9. This is slide number 9. It is merged in the mind after suppressing all assumptions of differentiation. The differentiation of the structures of the words, kind of having their indefinite recursions into newer and newer sentences. All these are merged again. But he says one thing, that without abandoning the residual force of differentiation, residual force that it will again unfurl, that is always there. This is unfurling and recoiling. Recoiling into this photo where you get the shabda for its own sake. And there I could not, resist my temptation to be a bit, what should I say, trying to be a bit poetic. You see, that is why oh sound, I lose you again and again, so that I get back again and again. This is a Rabindra Sangit, where you say, "Tomai notun kore pabo bole harai khori kha." तुमको बार बार में खो देता है इसलिए क्योंकि तुम्हें बार बार तुमको मिल जाए. This is what we do with this photo or with the sound. Now, so yeah, this communication for this and radical this is important. So that is why this slide should be used. Trying to activate our intuitions of favorite spota. Differentiations emerge from undifferentiated spota, and again the differentiations are submerged. Again, they are differentiated according to the intention of the speaker. That is here, I confess that I've taken the help of commentary of Professor Tandra Patnaik, and that is what she has said, and intention of the speaker. The way the speaker merges it may not, this is important. The way the speaker merges it may not be merges into a spota, may not be the way the hearer merges it. And the way the speaker unfurls it may not be the way the hearer unfurls it on hearing the nada. So anyway, so now Matilal's reservations against Quine. This is interesting because you see, Matilal is saying that Quine unduly. This is all Matilal's words. Quine unduly believes that native language, as well as the translator's language, it is a closed system. A completed totality where the growing process has been frozen, which Bhartihari does not do. But here you see Professor Pradhan, I was I was a bit disturbed or rather interested that Matilal says so, but Professor Pradhan said that Quine has grown sufficiently in his other later works where he says that language is not a closed system. So that is why language is not a closed system. Professor Pradhan said, according to Quine, language is not a closed system. But the way Matilal reads Quine is that it is a closed system. He freezes the live organismic growth of language, and whereas Bhartihari doesn't do it. Bhartihari will allow that the linguistic dispositions of the spotas of the different speakers, they will not be exactly the same, because the spota nada blend is indissoluble, but still they will be, the spotas will be related by, what he says, overlap. This is the word that, Matilal uses. Now, in order to understand this, that since Matilal is very cryptic, he does not use any examples, either from Quine nor from Bhartihari with respect to particular uses. So that is why what I first took is that, I just took help of Wittgenstein. I do not know how much, maybe I'm not justified to do that, but what overlap, we have seen that what overlap is it is a similarity. I won't take much because they take too much of slides. That it is a similarity which is not founded upon any identity. Usually we think that two things to be similar, they have to be grounded upon respect which is identically shared by both. And overlap thinks this, these two things are literally touching each other. But Wittgenstein would not accept this kind of overlap. He talks about intersection, like this. But remember, there is really no physical overlap. There is no real intersection, because that is all only geometrical abstraction. Because when in the real space, overlap, when one thing overlaps on the other, there is no static space which remains external to them. So in that way, that is the way Wittgenstein wants us to understand him. So and that is important. Why? You see, if you take that point as static, that space as static, as letting itself be, then ultimately you also accept the meaning constant. The meaning constant, which is language transcendent, and which is allowing that language an external vehicle, and so that the same meaning can be given by different tools or different media. That is what Matilal has started by saying, no, that is neither the position of Quine nor the position of Bhartihari. That is why I thought that it is cautious. We should be cautious that how we take Matilal's notion of overlap also. That is why I took Wittgenstein's examples, but I think here I have to, yes, let me go to slide number 14. Some Quine's conceptual schemes which he has given examples, which we cannot ignore, right? In translation, what? Second chapter of Word and Object, that is translation determined. Gavagai. Rabbit comes up, what seems to be a rabbit comes up, and the native says Gavagai. But it may mean that, how much we try to get a constancy of stimulation. It may mean rabbit part, rabbit face, rabbit universal, a time slice containing rabbits, or a very, very interesting example, or a single but discontinuous space containing rabbits. Now, of course, you can use analytic hypothesis, but still, indeterminacy cannot be absolutely avoided. And here you see, if I'm in, I think, no, sorry, slide number 7. Yes, yes, no, I think I can go to slide number 7. Oh, sorry. Yes, now slide number 21, perhaps. Slide number 21. What Quine's indeterminacy is this way. Quine's indeterminacy happens because what he does, that he does not accept that there is any language transcended meaning. Whatever the meaning is, it is blended with the material specificity of the language. Fine, but how indeterminacy happens is this kind of blend that Quine achieves between language and meaning is because he admits a dichotomy in a different area, which many speakers have spoken about. I think Dr. Badhuchanda has spoken about, though I was not in her session. Then which was actually critiqued by Davidson, that there cannot be a scheme content dichotomy. There is you see, how can language address something which is non-conceptual? Because whenever or how can untranslatability be there? Because what happens is this is also important for this Porter, that it's Porter, as I was saying, that what we share as our disposition is that we take the words as going out of themselves, which doesn't happen with the case of noise. It goes out of itself. And there you see, and where you see that problem of untranslatability comes up is this, that how can you cannot bump your head against a plethora of dhwani or nada or whatever, or a sound, where you see that, okay, this is untranslatable. Because you see, if you cannot bump your head against something in a set of sounds where you appreciate it to be language, and yet you say that it is untranslatable. Because once you are sensitive to this set of sounds being a language, then you are also sensitive that it is translatable. Hmm. That untranslatability is not a logical untranslatability. So this is also the point which I think that Matilal would be uncomfortable about. And but mainly what he says, though these 2 points are related, is that uh, Quine freezes language. Now, how to make sense of this claim or this blame against Quine that it freezes language? Freezes language, it freezes the growth of language. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that see, Quine does say that our conceptual schemes, they change. Our schemes of belief, they change. Professor Pradhan also saying. But to make sense of Matilal's reading of Quine, what we can say is that one conceptual scheme, say a rabbit slice or a time slice, or seeing the world as single but discontinuous paths containing rabbits. Each of these schemes would be mutually exclusive with respect to the other. There you see the frozenness comes. What Quine would not allow is he would not allow that how one conceptual scheme, say rabbit slice, can overlap, can thicken out, or can shade on to another conceptual scheme. I think that this is where the freezing the language into the mutual exclusivity comes, and this is because you see indeterminacy becomes a problem for Quine, and he says that radical translation goes on. It is a miracle. He said it's a near miracle that how radical translation can go on. So. 25 minutes are over, right? Okay, I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes. Here, this is the inconsistency in Quine, I think. That is, this is slide number 23, the irony in Quine. This is slide number 23, that beyond and before the indissoluble blend of meaning and language, which he shares with Bhartihari. But ironically, beyond that lies the influx of sense stimulus versus the schemes. The sense stimulus and the schemes that are imposed on them. This is the dichotomy. And anyway, I'll just go to one more slide so that I can conclude. Yes. How exactly would have Bhartihari addressed the original? This is 26. I'll just take 2 more minutes. The original spota of the native may provoke 2 different spotas for the translators. Spotas being language meaning blend. Each blend has to be different from the others. So, just give me 1 more minute. I wanted to, yes, how Wittgenstein would respond to all this. Since I started with the promise, and it is also in my title that, I would. So I think that we can now understand certain kinds of bullet points, that where Wittgenstein would be having problem with Quine and where he would be having problem with Bhartihari. This is 33, last but one. So there is no condensation into a sound seat, and Wittgenstein would be having a different take on disposition. Disposition is not a solid ground, beyond the different occurrences. I mean, we say that the way you see people can say that, look, the disposition for a glass being fragile, or different occurrences of its breaking, every variation of its breaking in every circumstance is somehow contained in its atomic structure. See, similarly, every variation of sound, every variation of permutation and combination of language would be contained in a seed. Wittgenstein would not accept disposition in that way. He would say that disposition also is something which is open-ended, which kind of cashes out in terms of counterfactuals. Not that there is a seed of this disposition. There is no scheme content dualism. There is birds retaining an essential identity. That is why, Shabda Brahman and all these things change, words do not change. Wittgenstein would rather say that, yeah, the uniform appearance of the words, despite the changes, that is why, our mind gets diseased. So he would say that, you get confused by the uniform appearance of the words. So Bhartihari also got confused, he got duped. He got duped by the uniform appearance of the words. Yeah, I finished, so I'll just, I'll take your question as the first question. And yes. Anyway, thank you. Thanks for your patient hearing.
Thank you. Do you have a PPT also? When I sit. Yeah.
Can I push it?
Thank you, Professor Enakshi Ray Mitra, for presenting a good paper, and we are sorry that we gave you a little lesser time, though you came prepared with so many things. Okay, thank you. And now may I request Dr. Satya Sundar Sethi, he is professor of philosophy and also SIR Fulbright professor, and he is from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences from IIT Madras. Sir, if you can kindly come over and deliver the lecture, it will be good. Thank you.
So chair of the presentation, Professor Sen, my co-speaker and teachers, colleagues, scholars, students, ladies and gentlemen. So the title of my topic is Meaning and Mental Representation. Does the mind lead the brain? That's the question. So for nearly 48 hours, as of now, I guess you would be listening about semantic representation something. So there is a little change for all of you called mental representation. I'll see how far we can proceed. So the question for me today that I'll try to answer these three questions within 25 minutes. Yep. Can we understand meaning of a sentence in absence of brain's cognition function? I'll tell you the structure of the brain and how brain really works when we obtain the meaning of a proposition. The second one, is it possible for us to understand a sentence without mental content? The third and the last, how does a hearer understand the new expression, okay, uttered by the speaker? These are the three questions that I'm going to answer. Is that okay if I stand here? Okay, thank you. So there are three questions that I'm going to answer in today's presentation. Meaning and representation. Whenever we talk about meaning, we know that there's a close association between meaning and language, the way we find logic and the logical form. So what it says necessarily that meaning is representational in character. Take an example of your choice. Somebody said something. It's a language, any language for that choice. It's something happens in your brain that becomes a thought. Because of the thought, you directly say that it is about an object or a fact or an event, and that's called mental representation. So therefore, mental contents are mostly, you can say, ideas. If you're a really philosopher, you say ideas are different from thoughts. We'll come to that if at all there's a question. But right now, I would say that there's a little difference, but not more difference. For our ordinary understanding, we'll say ideas and thoughts, one the same. At present purpose. Then I say images, some weird images. Sometimes like you will have an image that you might not have seen something in the world, that also you can have in your mind. And facts, events. So therefore there's a language, there's a mental content, and that ref- refers to, I would say, that represent some kind of object, either in a composition of many object or single object, so and so. Okay, so therefore whenever I talk about that our mental content refers to the worldly affairs, it necessarily mean something that exists, something that doesn't exist. For example, I'll say, look at, there's a rainbow. Now there's no rainbow, but all of you have understood, because there's a mental content in your mind. Now rainbow, there'll be 7 color for somebody. Somebody may be having deep color, somebody may be having faded color, somebody may be having 6 colors. It depends, isn't it? So therefore, when I say that mental content refers to something, it may be existent, it may not be existent. Now let us put in a logical form. Some of you may be liking, some of you may like logic, and it is good to put it symbolically. I would say, in case of a mental representation, a mental state, whenever we are in a waking state, there is a mental state. A mental state M has the content P, and that P necessarily represents a worldly affairs. And that worldly affairs may be an existent, may not be an existent. Now take some of the examples. You can add on to that. Here I have given some examples just for getting acquainted with what exactly mental representation we need to understand. Realizing pain in my wrist, multiple ways. Sometimes those who are playing badminton or something else altogether you are doing, you'll find that there's a pain in one place, but you find the pain in so many places. Mostly take in the winter season. Sometimes your nail get caught. So you find that your blanket is touching to that nail, and you are not getting pain exactly in that place, rather getting pain in from various part of the body, isn't it? And that's possible because of mental representation. Similarly, conceiving the meaning of the word gold. All that glitters are not gold. Anything that is yellow in color is not gold. So therefore we have an understanding what is yellow in color, what is that metal, and composition of that metal. It becomes a mental representation about the god. And therefore and the other examples, like birds are not quadruped animals. When I talk about quadruped animals, I mean that's those animals having 4 legs. Now here when I make a statement as a language, I said, birds are not quadruped animals. What necessarily means, you, me, and all of us, we know the birds are having 2 legs. Now I said, not quadruple legs means you know the assertion, then you negate from that. And therefore, you create an image in your mind and refers to that. You know, birds are 2 legs. I say birds are not having 4 legs. That means you are thinking in your imagination, what would be the situation if birds are having 4 legs? But here the sentences is not the case. So therefore, you are eliminating the 4 legs from the bird in your mind and create an image, and that refers to the worldly affairs. Now, the last one, accepting that pine trees are tall. Those who have gone to some of the hill station and all these things, you will say that all the pine trees are not tall, or in relative some pine trees are very tall. So therefore, when I say that all pine trees are tall, in your image, you create some kind of ideas, and that refers to the worldly affairs. In this way, mental representation happens, and therefore here I said there's a content of thought whenever we hear some words or sounds or a proposition, and that necessarily refers to the state of affairs. And therefore I would say representation is the datum of language. So without representations we cannot understand a language, we cannot obtain the meaning of the propositions. Where I am. Okay. So now coming to the 2 theories of representation. Philosophers, we like theories. Yeah? So all of you some of you may be acquainted about it. One is representational theory of intentionality, that represents our intention. Suppose you are having an ice cream in your hand. You say that I believe it may be cold. That's the one statement. Second statement, somebody making that I'm fear that that ice cream may be cold. Now, 2 propositions you are making, but you're referring to the one and the same thing. And that's mostly says that representation theory of intentionality. So here what happens, the mental content are to be treated as intentional content. Like you have inclinations, you have a belief, you have a desire, and so and so. That's you represent through propositional attitudes. Suppose you want to say your ice cream is cold. How you'll say, I'm afraid that my ice cream will be cold. Right? Now it's so that I believe that it is cold. Yeah, something like that. So therefore, so many propositions that we use in the form of propositional attitudes to convey a particular meaning about the worldly affairs. And therefore, I would say this is one theory that's called representational theory. The second one is about computational theory of cognition. Mostly computer scientists, cognitive scientists, they work on what it means. There's an input, there's a processing, and there's an output. Exactly what happens. Somebody said something, it gets processed in the brain, and there's a meaning through which we understand what he or she said. And in this way, we can understand the computational theory of meaning, and some of the scholars like Stich, Cummins, and all these things. Okay. Here we'll go. Computational theory of cognition. There is a cognitive biologist. You take any name like Bhartihari, Hoplite, and so and so. These are the neurologists. Here I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens in our brain, but I'll tell you that there is some part of the brain that really helps us to obtain the meaning of a propositions. Now you ask me, what is that exactly in the brain or the cerebral system that helps us to obtain the meaning of a proposition? Here you can see that. So this is my front side, that's my back side. On the front side, it's called Broca area. There's the area, you can see this one. Is it okay if I touch it? No, you cannot see that. Okay, I would say the brown color, faded brown color. You can read that, Broca areas, that's the front. And the back side, you can say wrinkle area. These are the two areas. Now you ask me the question, how do they clearly communicate when I hear a sound? And here we go. This is how exactly it communicates. So now you can see there are some kind of waves that's there. That's called electron. That electron fires when you hear a sound, and that's called acute facialis. That's in a neurological terms. I think philosophers can be acquainted with that. Because of that, when we hear a sound that searches in the brain, is it something to do with past? Did I know it, or it's something new? And with this analysis and synthesis, you come out with a meaning for that. And that's what the brain works. Now, coming to this representational theory of intentionality, all of us, we experience this, but we do not know what exactly philosophers name those. It's called styles of mental representation. It's called implicit mental representation, the idea of myself. Now, if you ask me, can you explain about yourself? I would say that I work so and so, I'm having this much height, or this is the weight, and so, I like this food. But that's not all about the idea of myself. To have an idea of myself, I know what exactly for me. That's called implicit mental representation. Even in language, I will not be able to tell what exactly I feel about it. Then next one is called explicit mental representation. I can say this is the microphone that works. This is the mouse I can touch. You can see my wristwatch. These are explicit mental representation that you can refer to the worldly affairs. The next one is called tacit mental representation. All of us, we can relate to our experience. Some of us, they say that, look, I know something, but I do not know how to say. It's coming to my mind, but I'm not able to express. Some of you might have experienced this, and that's called tacit mental representation. That means some informations that occurs in the baraka, the place of the brain, but it doesn't able to coordinate, doesn't able to search it, and that's called tacit mental representation. Sometimes we can understand in the following way: the image of I as me. I'm not describing about myself. See, for an example, if I stand in front of a mirror, I can able to see my face, or you can see your face. But if I ask you, have you seen your face? You said no. It's impossible for an individual who can see his or her own face. So depending on the mirror configuration, your face can be bulker, can be slim, and so on and so forth. So therefore, without seeing our face, still we know what exactly we are. In that sense, we call tacit mental representation. Very difficult to understand what exactly we mean actually. It's not just merely our behavior. It's not just about our body parts, so and so forth, but something above and beyond this, all this thing, that's called tacit mental representation. Something that I know, but at no point of time I can able to explain in a word that convey exactly, correspondingly, what I mean about it. So therefore, I would say, by taking the reference from Quine, it said that meaning, mind, and language are intertwined in such a manner that if we eliminate one from the other, the whole system gets collapsed. The meaning will not be able to communicate it to us. For example, imagine a situation: morning you are wake up for some reason, then you are walking and you see that the two birds are somehow fighting with each other, or sitting somewhere as if they're talking to each other. It doesn't make any sense to us, because we do not know what language is about. So in this way, we can say that meaning, mind, and language, they work in such a tight-knit manner that if you eliminate one component from the other, perhaps will not be able to obtain the meaning. So these are mostly references. Here, Cummins said that mental representation is important for all of us to obtain the meaning of a proposition. Similarly, through mental representations, we can able to understand our thought, our ideas about worldly affairs. And the last one say, the main and only one purpose for the mental representation is to describe the concept. Now I'll ask you, have you seen my left hand? Most of you say yes, but at a given point of time, you can see only one part of it, then next part of it, then next part of it. And all the information that brain just analyze, synthesizes, and therefore that helps you tell this is my left hand, but not any other body parts. And exactly through which we get this meaning. No, and there are many kind of concepts over here. I would say that because of mental representation, we refer to an object, whether somebody is in something is in a water cup or a teacup, that we can differentiate. Now, there are two types of mental representation. So here I'll say surface, and then is a deep mental representation. Surface mental representation happens in a social and cultural atmosphere. Suppose somebody tells you that, would you like to come with me for a movie? No, nobody asks you like that. You'll say, let's go for a movie, or you say just a movie. One word itself that helps you to constitute the whole statement, and then you understand yes or no. So suppose some of your friends tell you that library, it, you know that means that person is asking, would you like to come to me at the library? That's part of called surface mental representation. Deep mental representation means somebody uttered the whole statements from first word to the last word, and that's get correctly processed in your brain process, and what exactly meaning you get it, and that's happens because of deep mental representation. Now, coming to Benjamin the Libet theory. Benjamin is a cognitive psychologist as well as cognitive scientist. What he said that brain stimulates the mind, and because of the function of the mind, we obtain the meaning of the proposition, and then the agent wills. If you ask me where these are located, I'll come to that in few minutes time. So I repeat, what he says that a person obtains the meaning because everything starts from the brain. Brain stimulates the mind, and mind helps us to obtain the meaning. Then the persons like you, me, and all of us, an agent, we have a willpower to say whether there's a correct meaning or incorrect meaning, whether we'll act on that meaning or not. Suppose I'm walking on the road, my brain, what happens I do not know. My brain stimulates my mind, and mind sees something or somebody said something, and therefore it processes, and I have a will to look back whether X who called my name, whether it's called me or somebody else. Then when I say that, then my brain decides, no, 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 you are not the same person. Many times you consider X or Y as a friend and you tap it, and later that friend says, oh, it's a mistake and I'm not the same person. So this is how exactly happens, and it is a theory. These are the literature that you can find it. Okay. Now here I have made my criticisms, which I published somewhere else. So here I said, what happens to a person as a result his or her brain process starts? If brain is responsible to obtain the meaning of a word or a sentence in our linguistic discourse, then what exactly happens in the brain, and therefore brain process starts? That's the question. The second, is it logically justifiable that a person understand the meaning of a proposition when the brain process starts? Because what happens in our brain, we are not aware of it. We do not know exactly. But we know that because of it, we obtain the meaning of a proposition. So to me, it's not convincing. That's my way of understanding. I say, no, if I do not know anything that happens in my brain, in what way I can say that brain is responsible for everything? In other words, I'll say, whatever action I do that, my brain does it. So I do not know what it does it. Only it guides my body parts to perform certain action. If the consequence of my action is bad, why shall I be responsible? Because what happens in my brain, I was not aware of it. I'm not conscious of it. I didn't have anything to choose differently. So therefore, if a brain helps us to obtain a meaning, whether it's a correct meaning, incorrect meaning, as a vague expression or anything else, how can I be responsible? That means there is every possibility that there is a miscommunication may take place between hearer and speaker. And whatever the hearer will understand, it may not be the speaker who is intended to say so. And therefore, because of this two criticism, I found a new literature along with my publication somewhere. I said that mind leads the brain. It's not the other way around. So I have criticized the theory, Benjamin Libet theory, saying that its brain cannot be caused to obtain the meaning of a proposition. That's goes in a different way. I would say mind, which has a stimulus responses for the brain, and the brain, therefore, I'll be telling you exactly how it happens. I would say mind leads the brain, not other way around. Why I say? Because it is the mind which is a readiness potential that stimulates the brain, and the brain's Voraka and other systems that lies in the cerebral part, that works. And that helps us to obtain the meaning. And because of agent's will or your or mine will, we decide whether to act on that meaning or not. Right? Suppose I'll say there is a tiger in this room. I'm sure nobody will wake up. But immediately I'll throw something as a, look like a tiger. Everybody will shout and react to a different situation. And therefore, I say there is a readiness potential. And this I'm going to prove it with an experiment method, which most of you may not be aware of it, but it will be a new thing for you. Like for students, some of the professor must be knowing about it. I would say here mind means a non-material absolute entity. That's a part of readiness potential. A brain means a physical entity where a neurosurgeon can operate some part of a brain and cut it and again uh, fix it. So therefore, I would say a person is consciously acquires meaning of a proposition. As a result, he or she understands the speaker's language. Take an experiment. Yeah, this is an experiment. Those who are having some kind of eyes problem, you might have gone to the eye specialist. They'll say glaucoma test. What it means, whether my eyeballs are moving left side or right side, on the top right, top left, down right, down left, isn't it? So it's just like ice cream for your imagination, but it's not ice cream, right? You imagine the cone is empty, inside is totally black in color. Is that okay? So your chin and forehead are fixed. You're not allowed to go this way or that way. So what the doctor will say, there's a mouse in your right hand or left hand, depending on which hand that you use it. They'll say, look, inside is totally black. Is there anything visible? You say no. Then they'll say, from the middle point, there will be yellow color light will come like round and round and round towards the end. Once it finish, again it will come. And in the process, you'll find the red stars will spark like this. Is that okay? So now it's a cone, it's a black cone. In the middle, you'll find that a yellow light starts and goes in a circle like a spread. And in between, it some kind of red star will just pop up and it will connect with that. And whenever you see a red star, you just click the mouse. That's all about the doctor would say that. Now, after going through this, these are the conditions mostly. What one equipment will be there on your this hand, right hand, after the muscle. That's called electromyogram. Another machine will be there on your scalp. So I'm bald, so it will be easy for me. So they can put it so it will be very easily. Of course, those have hair also, it can be detected, right? Because that's a heavy machine altogether. So it's a electrocephalogram. So one machine they'll be putting here to after your muscle, this point, then the wrist after the wrist, then another machine they'll put on your scalp altogether. Now, what these are the conditions mostly. So what after the data got it, this is how the all about what I told you, the medical report. The medical report was generated at the end to see that whether brain starts for everything or mind that helps the brain to work on. Come on. I'm not able to. Oh, success. Okay. So this one I already explained to you. A yellow light originates from the center and all these things, and it was plotted in a chart. So the doctor has taken out all the time zone and how this after wrist the muscle works and what is the brain function system. So what exactly the findings we had in the following way. The agent had an urge to click on the red star even before the stars appear. So before the red star appeared, the agent was ready to click. So sometimes it clicked wrongly also. The second, while clicking the red star, agent looking for the yellow light movement again because he or she doesn't want to miss the light. The third findings say that the yellow light movement ended to the last and about to begin from the corner, and that person or the agent or the patient is ready to click. That means the readiness potential is already embedded before the brain works. Now further what happens, the agent was readily awaiting for the starting point and the red stars to come so that he can click on those stars. So even though the yellow light has not started, the red star are not sparked off, still the agent was ready for that. Now, before the cerebral function starts, if cerebral means the brain functions mostly, before his or her brain function starts, there's a readiness potential. In bracket I wrote an urge that is there. So because of the urge, that person's brain was functioning in a particular order. So therefore they say that urge of that person which characterized as a mind. is a psychological entity, something that urge. If you ask me what exactly you mean, I say the natural conditions, the surrounding environment, and the person's inner and outer conditions that generates an urge, and that's merely a psychological aspect of the mind. And because of that mind, it instructs the brain or stimulates the brain to function. And once the brain functions, then the two part, that the brown color, faded brown color point which I told you, they just communicate the information, search the information, analyzes the information, and therefore you and me and all of us, we obtain the meaning of the proposition which somebody uttered, or meaning of the word that was communicated to us. Therefore I said, due to RP, means readiness potential, brain stimulates the person, and therefore the person obtains the meaning of the proposition. And of course there is a free will to decide. Somebody tells you, are you coming for a breakfast? Then you decide yes or no. It's not necessarily you're going for the breakfast, because your agent will have to decide whether the meaning that you get it, you need to actually perform it or not. So with this, I would say exactly that's a neurosurgeon's, or I would say neuroscientist explanation. Before we perform an action, 550 milliseconds prior to that, there is a readiness potential. That means the mind that starts stimulating the brain. And 220 milliseconds prior to our action, there is an agent will that decides whether whatever the brain decides, we need to perform it or we need to veto it. We need to decline it. And therefore, I say mind leads the brain in obtaining the meaning of a proposition or a word in a linguistic system. Thank you for your patience.
We can have questions now. I would like you to specify who you are asking the question to.
That means mind is an independent entity, uh, independent of brain. So what kind of proof or evidence is available for the independent existence of the mind? This is my question.
Hello, sir. It was a wonderful presentation by you, and ma'am, your presentation was also very nice. So I have a question to each of you. Firstly, to Professor Sethi, I would like to ask you very gently and straightforwardly: are you a reductionist? If yes, then uh, how will you respond to the Indian philosophy, especially Nyaya philosophy, who, who actually reject the reductionism? This is my question to you. And ma'am, to you, I would like to ask uh, the views of Bhartihari cannot be equated with meaning holism, as we all know and understand in that way. But this, the depth which you emphasized as per the Bhartihari, can it be understood in the sense of deep structural level of meaning, which Chomsky has also drawn our attention towards? And as we know that Bhartihari also talked about, two kinds of expressions, inner and outer. So can it be equated with the surface level meaning and the deep level meaning, deep structural level of meaning? So this is my question to you. Thank you so much.
So I just want to ask a lot of questions. I will have to ask you details. But here I just want to know if that's the same case with the consciousness. You are mentioning about the mind. Where do you locate a consciousness then? Is the case same case with mind, or there is any separation from mind to consciousness? From your point, I just want to know.
Anyone else?
पहला तो यही क्वेश्चन था कि माइंड और कॉन्शियसनेस में डिफरेंस, और यदि ये टाइम एंड स्पेस के बाहर है, बियॉन्ड द माइंड अगर बियॉन्ड है तो उसके आप किस बेसिस पर कह रहे हैं, ये बेस्ड वर्ड।
Sir, when you are talk about that mental representation, is a thought identical to the object?
Hello, sir. My question is like brain, mind. What's the function? Basically, in evolutionary biology context, like language is a metaphor. There is nothing certain. We always identify. Suppose 30 animals, okay, 30 animals, and we can say 30 elephant. So we recognize by language 30 elephant, and we can say it's just a metaphor. You just like a bright moon and mm, burning sun type. So I just want to understand in evolutionary biology context, what's the process and what's the actual meaning of mind and brain, just like our primitive our ancestors, many centuries before many centuries. What's the process of their mind and their brain and their language and their symbolism, just like. Thank you.
And we are having one online question as well from Anand Baidia. People like me with aphasia don't have mental imagery. Some people don't have mental imagery. Does your view require mental imagery? I think to Sir Sethi, I think. Yes. Yes, please ask. Everybody, anyone can ask, yes.
I just wanted to say it's been a very long day. So I'm sorry, Tripti. I'm now thinking about Satya most vividly, and then uh, Enakidi less vividly, and you even less vividly. My poor brain and old brain. So I just wanted to tell Enakidi that, we had this discussion after my lecture. Professor Mishra said that whether we could think about the possibility of all the alternative translations that an indeterminacy thesis talks about as determinate alternatives. And this is the point that you ended with, in a way, by saying that Matilal takes Quine's view as a frozen view of language only because all the alternative translations are exclusive. And Professor Mishra exactly pointed here that, they may not be exclusive. And what happens if, yes, yeah, what happens if they are not? So this is actually, we are going back to that point. I think we are making one bit of progress here. If we can work, because this is not not an alternative that we have, not to my knowledge, because I shouldn't say that. Maybe Jhareshwar will be able to say, because I have stopped doing Quine long time back. But this is one alternative that might be looked into, and I'm very grateful to.
Matilal doesn't take. Matilal takes the other. He feels there mutually or exclusive.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Whether, this is the correct way of understanding indeterminacy or not, or can we, maybe not within the Quinean framework, maybe we can talk about indeterminacy, determinate uh, non-exclusive possibilities of translating. Am I getting it right? Yeah. So this is, yeah.
Indeterminate are not determinate. They are also indeterminate. That is a Vigishan imposition.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the distance between Quine and Vigishan would be less.
Less,
I mean, that
right.
you can get it to my knowledge shop. Very
Yes.
knowledge shop.
That,
Yeah. You have to do that. The whole
yes.
responsibility of
Yes, yes, he's the Quine scholar here. Yeah. Now about Satya, this is, I mean, though the paper was not really on semantic representations, but was more significantly on mental representations. I want to say that this is new to me. I didn't know about this argument about, this prior responsiveness of the human organism prior to the action of the brain, as if that really proves a kind of dualism. It is actually non-reductive. He's not reductive. It is not reductionism. He is actually making space for the mind on the basis of biological, where someone was talking about biological evidence, right? Now, what does that do for language?
He's even saying that the meaning is image. That is something I think that
No, no.
theory. I don't know. That is
I mean, image. I mean, what are representations? Okay, representations, if we take, the classic representational theory of mind, and then which then was elevated to computational representational theory of mind, it is a kind of symbol. I mean, if you put it in layman's terms, to have a mental representation, which, if articulated in language, would be believing that Satya has just proposed dualism, then what you have is that you have a belief box in your head, and in that belief box, there is some scribblings written on, which mean that Satya has given an argument for dualism. Okay, and then you make the computer analogy and you elevate it to computational representational theory of mind. But what is mental representation for these people? The classical representational theorists, when they took the cognitive turn, were all physicalists. All. Okay. That is my question. I mean, you need not be physicalist. I mean, yeah.
I also wanted to ask a question to Satya. Sorry, he's getting all the questions, if I'm allowed. Yeah, I mean, to take the trail from what Professor Sen has been saying, when you said it is the mind's readiness that determines the brain, and you were giving lots of evidences for that. But even then, with those experiments, it was a matter of postulation. There is a non-material entity which has been influencing the nervous system to work in that manner. Because what I think that people, for example, like Churchland, he would say that what you say to be, I mean, pre-nervous, that primacy of the mental, where the mind's attitude itself gets a primacy and influences or determines the certain nervous processes, they would say that mind's, so-called mind's readiness or mind's intention, mind's orientation, that itself they will cash out in terms of certain neural dispositions. They will talk about first level neurons, they will talk about second level neurons. Yes. And they
also they could also talk of bring this in terms of some kind of biological determinism, which, I mean, in Akhidi's brain doesn't have to work, because she, being a member of a particular species, already has that readiness. Not that particular brain and that particular Broca's area or Wernicke's area has to be activated. That could be also, Anyway, I mean, obviously you have excited us. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Just I wanted to ask a questions, very small questions that you have mentioned about the Broca's area that is related with the language, that is left area of us. And it is whether you have reference, you have written this on a particular any other philosophical aspects or any scientific aspects. I don't know actually in which aspects you have referred this, but Chomsky himself have used this term and defined this in PVP structure, brain structure, and all those things. Do you believe that this structure is actually located in our brain, or we are stuck when we are saying something, then the sentence is all structurally defined as NPVP? What would be that kind of structure? That is, brain is already structurally defined on that way, or the language is structurally defined on that way? It's small questions from me.
As another person there. I mean, the mind. No, 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 not there. I mean, brain and language. Other than that, there is the mind.
Oh, yes.
The mind is there. Okay, so who wants to answer? Satya.
Thank you.
Lots and lots of
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, so thank you for the questions, and I'll try to answer some of the questions, and if there is any learning, I'll take it forward for my future thinking and research. The first one, sir, you asked that mind is an independent entity. How can we prove that? So when I say that mind, it's not a physical entity, I would say that a condition that comes from inside of a human being or an agent or a person, and the outer conditions that put together in a proper format of integrations, that's called a readiness potential as a mind, as an urge comes. An example which is explained in the literature is like when there is a rainy season, so much water are there on the soil, a heavy drop falls in and there is a ball. By the time you see that, it's dissolved. So in many people call it aura. Aura means something. Suppose a fly uh, in me, but I didn't see that. Neither it touches me. I get some sort of sensations and reflection, even though without, because the aura gets some kind of penetration. No, I'm just trying to. I'm trying to give an analogy where to understand the mind. So in that way, the mind is something that's a inner and outer, the energy, the force that we have. A living creature is a force. Inner, outer, and the environmental, put together, the three things compose it in a that stimulates the brain. If we eliminate the inner force from the total, the capsule, then perhaps we'll not be able to explain mind. So as per the literature goes in behavioral science journals and other journals, they say that inner force, outer force, and inner force, these three forces put together in a different permutation combination operates for a different person. That necessarily defines a mind, and therefore mind would say that it's an entity, but it's a metaphysical entity in a sense. It doesn't have a physical space to there. Like an example given by Bardhaman. Bardhaman works in Cambridge. He says that, sir, a capsule, the way we design the paracetamol tablet capsule, it has certain composition. When it is a 250 gram, 500 gram, or 750, it is a different composition. So similarly, this mind has a different composition for different living entity, and that really as an urge, create an urge and stimulus the brain to work on. The next question is a reductionist. So I think Professor Sen has the answer. So yeah. So yes, glaucoma is just an example to find out what is to be there in a medical chart, exactly what data we get it. So as Professor Sen said that I'm not trying to reduce it. Thank you, Professor Sen, for helping me. All right. So now the next question for you, mind and consciousness. The consciousness is so vast that which perspective we have to take, that we need to be serious about it. Because whenever we talk about consciousness study, that's an independent areas. You like have ethics, logic, Western philosophy, Indian philosophy. Consciousness study itself is a branch of philosophy in that sense. Now, most of you may be knowing that cognitive scientist people are working on that, philosophers working on that, biologists working on that, anesthesia specialists working on that, neurologists working on that, computer scientists and mechanical engineering. Now, rest I leave to your imagination, the perspective. So now each person, when they take a perspective, they think through their lens. Now still I'll be fixing the context so that for all of us we can make some sense out of it. I would say that how the mind is related to consciousness. In that sense, I would say that consciousness is prerequisite for everything to define. So I'm a person, I would say, panpsychism. Panpsychism means, for me, everything is consciousness. Everything. The way you are looking at me, there's a consciousness. If you're able to move, if I can move this bottle from here to here, there's a consciousness. If I know how much force is required to hold this, which is not possible for a bucket of water, right? There's a consciousness. When you are sleeping in a dream state, there is consciousness. Don't say unconscious state. That's wrong to say when you are having a dream. I would say, sir, whenever we talk about from cognitive science perspective, yeah, I would say that many people, when they do research on consciousness, they try to talk about salvation, liberations, nirvana, and that. Uh, I would not be able to justify saying that I have experienced nirvana, that I know that a consciousness would not be there. Like intentionally, I can taken out consciousness. But the question is that would there be a possibility or logically possible that a consciousness is still there but body is not there? For me, I'm ruling out that possibility. So therefore, for me, consciousness, subconsciousness, and unconsciousness. And I have not touched about unconsciousness because that's just an object that has nothing to do on its own. That's unconscious. This is a debate altogether. But in my presentation today, I said subconscious and conscious. Consciousness that all of us we experience. Subconscious state where you faint in a summer if you work for that. In a dream state, sometimes you have a very deep sleep, something like susupti kind of thing. That's a concentration state. So therefore, sir, embodied consciousness, I'll not subscribe to that. I'm afraid. So that's this physical.
Independent existing consciousness as a substance is indefensible.
One can be a dualist and talk about embodied consciousness. Because Nyaya has done that.
Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, there is no yoga there. And you need not really commit yourself to anything, right?
No, what I'm saying that is a panpsychism, that everything is consciousness. Whether you start with 1, 2, 3, it's possible. But I will not subscribe to the fact that something is unconscious, but it itself is a consciousness because we can see that or we can touch that. Not that way. This is only my concern. Otherwise, I'll be defeating my own proposal. All right, next one. Time, space kind of things. I would say that to me, the way we see some eternal entity, like Panchamahabhuta, we say that, right? Water, air, fire, and so on. So I would say consciousness is another eternal entity that spreads across in such a manner that we only realize in very multiple ways, but we cannot able to see the consciousness exactly it is located and the locus of it. So that way I would say that it is an eternal entity as like time, space, and other things. Now,
Sorry, sir, I think we have to find out.
other questions I can able to answer. You meet me just after. Anand, hi Anand. Anand Satya from this side. So Anand, this, yeah. So whenever we say that there are some individuals, they do not have a mental imagery, perhaps they do not able to represent the worldly objects correctly, consciously. For example, if I take a lunatic person, the lunatic person doesn't know this is a stone that he or she is throwing. For an example, the lunatic person doesn't know what he or she is doing. In medical terminology, there are some kids, for unfortunately, they born on this earth and there's a disease. I'm not naming that. So they do not know what to do. So mostly parents, they just, put some kind of rope or something so that that boy should or girl should not do anything harm to himself or herself. That's just something disorder of brain disorder. So I can say that, Anandji. So therefore, some kind of concept and image minimum required to have a representation about worldly affairs.
We're saying that there are cases where there is no mental imagery at all. I mean, what he's trying to say is that there are people, and this is I mean, clinically proven, who are unable to organize things in their thought in terms of images. That's what it is.
those who will not be able to, Anand, can you hear me? Those who will not be able to create any image. Yes, Anand, in that sense, they will not be able to represent anything about worldly affairs. Mental representation would not be applicable to them, because anything randomly that may be referring to so many things. So therefore, meaning will be misplaced. So as our chair said that has no time, I'm sorry. I have many questions there, but later you can meet me and we'll discuss about it. Thank you for your patience.
I'll answer your question later.
I just want to thank all the three speakers and thank our organizers for giving us so much time, and thank you all for your engaged participation. Thank you.
Many thanks to Grace ma'am for convening the session, and so much thankful to all the speakers and Madhu ma'am for chair the session. Right away, we are move on to the last session of this day. I would like to invite our So let me invite Dr. Pramod Kumar Bhagde, Associate Professor, Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras University, to convene the session.
Thank you, Dr. Simi. You will agree that we have had a very profound session. Now, this session will be going to be a solo session because we have only one speaker in this session, namely Professor Godavarish Mishra. So I would request Honorable Godavarish Mishra to please come to the desk. Similarly, I would request Professor S.P. Pandey to assume the chair. He is supposed to chair this session. He's busy somewhere. Now it's time for felicitations of the guests and speakers. So in this context, first of all, I would request Dr. Grace Darling to please come up and felicitate our speaker of this session, Professor Godavarish Mishra, by offering him a garland and a shawl. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now may I call upon Dr. Neeti Singh to please come over and greet the chairperson of this session, Professor S.P. Pandey. Now may I call upon the speaker of this session, Professor Godavarish Mishra ji, to please come over and deliver his lecture. As you wish.
Keep it here just like that, or you want that one? Yeah, it's a. So, good afternoon and good evening to all of you. Professor Pandey, most esteemed chairperson of this session, Professor Bagade, and all of you who are here. What I prepared, I'm not going to speak because already you are tired. I am also tired. So I'll make it a little, as easy as possible with the constraints of the topic that I have chosen to speak. The topic is bordering Mimamsa, both the systems of Mimamsa, Bhartihari, Nyaya, but I will not go into all these, technicalities, but because, almost like many of these topics have been already discussed, but I will try to present whatever I wanted to say in about half an hour that we have today, okay? So by 5 o'clock we'll wind up. So, in our tradition, there is some problem when we mix up Western and Eastern traditions. There is some benefit in doing such explication, analysis, and there are some constraints also. Enakshi Madam gave a very brilliant presentation now, but there are many questions which opens up, and she relied on Professor Motilal and Quine, and I am only relying on Motilal. Motilal is the gateway, Dwara, back Dwara for me to understand the relation, the communication, facing together, putting together two traditions, and how he has done is what I wanted to speak today, but I am not going to speak today about that. I'll be speaking about very common sense, like the Indian philosophy material, by connecting it to the West as and when required. Friends, one thing that comes to my mind always is, when we speak from the Western angle, it looks very, sometimes for a purely Indian philosophically trained student, it looks very commonplace, ordinary, and naive. Like what happens when communication happens between two persons is the question that, that was going on when, many of the, like even including Jadeswar. What happens? Like why should it is very commonplace. Similarly, when you go to Eastern India, like Indian tradition, you find what is the purpose of going back to such vague, ancient, unusable material? One, commonplace, ordinary, and has no relevance to us, number one. Number two, again, non-applicable, vague, abstruse philosophy of the ancient India. These two things occur when two distinct type of hearers, audience, encounter these subjects. But it is not that. It is not that way it should be analyzed. There is deep understanding, deep necessity in both the traditions. In due course of our joining in and through philosophy in India, also, of course, it was never a tradition in the West, as Professor Mukhopadhyay told. We are losing sight of our tradition. And I do not know how much of it we can appropriate from the West, number one. But number two, we should again try, as it has happened earlier, we should take both the traditions together. We must understand West so that East will be, it will be, we can multiply our understanding. We can build up the, we can make our philosophy more application oriented, like realizable, applicable to the modern man. We can make it, and at the same time, this can only happen when we understand our tradition. Most of the scholars of the yesterday that we had here, Professor Murthy, Professor Chatterjee, all of them, Devraj, they did both. And we don't have such, we have some, but not many. This has to be like promoted in a proper way. that people must look at the east and the west, and actually did, like like whatever. As I told you with Professor Mathil, I also tried for last 3-4 months. I've been trying to understand how can we understand Quine in terms of Indian philosophy, and that is what I wanted to present here. But today I'm not going to present that because I'll bring that now and then. But my my presentation will largely border around Indian philosophical material, which is easy to understand to me. I don't know how much of it you can get out of what I said. Friends, the first problem comes when we go to Indian orthodox philosophical material is the problem of non-authorship of the Vedas. The Vedas have been accepted as a literature which is not having an author. You know, this is the problematic. Why? The sanctity, eternality, and relevance of the Veda can only be understood and applied if it is taken in that sense. What it means, I'll speak, and I'll speak about it at the end. And both schools of Mimamsa as well as all the schools of Indian philosophy, orthodox, have accepted this idea in different ways as how the Vedas are Apaurusha, non-man-made. Why it is non-man-made? Because as I have given in my abstract, it is infallible. Infallibility comes when the person is not involved in the making of that literature. A person is not involved in the making of literature makes a literature infallible. What it means, I'll come to that later. But with this background that Vedas are infallible, Apaurusheya, not man-made, no author for the Vedas. How it has become? It has come as a handbook along with the creation. The creation, whether it is a myth or a reality, whatever it is, how we understand, as far as our understanding of the text depends upon how we understand the Apauruseyatva or infallibility of the Vedas. So now, from that, I take a big leap to come to the Mimamsakas tradition. What Mimamsakas say, Mimamsa is a lost science. The way Mimamsa has proposed its philosophy looks as though everything was scientific once upon a time. And that science is no more there with us. They say that if you do this, you will get this. If you do this, you get this. There must be a scientific connection between the two, causal connection. That is not there today. It is no more there. We don't know how to make both the things come connected together, related together. That is number one. But what they say, that all Amnaya, see now I am making a big jump from the Apaurusheya of the Veda and its infallibility and non-man-madeness and authorlessness to the concept of Mimamsa, which says that the whole Amnaya is all about the action. The whole Amnaya, whole Veda, whole literature, whole Vedic corpus is devoted to the understanding of the action. Amnayasya kriyarthatvat. The whole Amnaya is only for kriyartha. And what happens? If there is something which is not related to kriya, action, that does not have any meaning at all. It ceases to have any meaning if a sentence is not speaking about an action. This borders around the problematic of what Quine says, what Frege says, what the way Davidson has given his clarification. I have worked on that, but I am not bringing this to you today. Action. When the action comes from a sentence. And what type of a sentence? There can be many types of sentence. I'll come to that. But a sentence becomes meaningful only when it talks about action. And it is all the more relevant in the context of Vedas. Amnayasya kriyarthatvat anarthakyam atadarthanam. Now, the question is, what happened to those sentences where there is no kriya? The Mimamsa, they speak that the kriya, arthavada vakyas, how are they meaningful? Are they meaningful? I'll come to that. They are meaningful only when they are related to kriyartha bodhaka vakyas or kriya. That is their standpoint. With this standpoint, at the end, The question comes, the so anarthakyam, there is no artha, there is no meaning for the statements which does not speak about kriya, the action. That is the point that I would like to highlight before I go into the further explication of Mimamsa philosophy, that which I would like to do on the basis, as I told you, of Mimamsakas, and on the basis of Professor Motilal's reading of these texts and his explanation, along with the intervention that he has given from the West. Like Quine, Dummett, he was a student of Quine. So, how does language become meaningful, and what are the mechanisms of understanding has been the topic of serious discussion in many traditions of Indian philosophy. And the schools of Mimamsa have made profound contributions in this to this area of semantics and philosophy of language. Besides its basic stand that Shruti or Vedic literature is infallible and transhuman creation. Please remember, they are eternal both in structure of language as well as their meaning. As regards the meaning of the words, Mimamsa maintains that all letter sounds are eternal and the Vedic words are also eternal. See, all sounds are eternal, any sound is eternal. That is why I was asking her, what do you mean by when you say that, it is a problem of Motilal, as far as photo was concerned. So they say all sounds are eternal and Vedic words are eternal. Conventional words are made up of eternal sounds, but they are not eternal. This is the standpoint of the Mimamsaka. We recognize a word when all letter sounds are uttered. For instance, the Antya Varna Ucharana Paryantam. When we say elephant, when the T is uttered, ELEPHANT, T is uttered, only the word is understood, not before that. So cognition comes only after the T is uttered. I am not going into the integration. There are a lot of nitty-gritty into that. I am not going into that. All the letters cannot be uttered at the same time. Every letter beginning from the first letter produces and leaves an impression in mind, and when the last letter is uttered, along with the impression of earlier letters, it makes us cognize the word elephant, all that as a whole. This is the standpoint which will be taken up later on, including that of Spota. So, Mimamsakas do not accept the grammarian's view, Spota view, that for every word there is a word pattern. This is what is Spota. We have to, a lot of work has been done by Professor Motilal on this regard. What the Spota is all about? How to understand Spota? He says that Spota is a word pattern, word universal. And they believe that all these patterns are universal, eternal. As regards the meaning of the words, Mimamsa says the words directly mean the universal. The individual can be referred to the word only through the universal, jati and vyakti. So the expression bring a horse from or for the sacrifice, suppose I say aswam anaya, bring a horse for the sacrifice, does not mean a particular horse, but any horse. Okay, we do not and cannot bring universal horseness. Universal jati cannot be brought. Here comes there are two schools of Mimamsa, as you all know, Kumari Lavatta. My presentation is all about the Mimamsa. I don't know whether how many of you know about the Mimamsa system. So Kumarila says that the reference to the individual is obtained when I say bring a horse. Kumarila Bhatta says that it is through Arthapatti Pramana postulation that the individual is obtained from the universal. Prabhakara says something else. He says the cognition of the individual is due to the individual in the universal. You don't have to put Arthapatti as a Pramana there. And no universal can exist except in the individual. However, both agree that the individual is not the primary meaning, but it is brought, it is understood, implied for completing intelligibility. Bodha. Okay. So as sentences expressing commands are primary, sentences expressing commands are primary. I told amnayasya kriyarthatvat. Okay. The for Mimamsa, Prabhakar says that meaning of no word can be fast understood without being associated with an action. This is the Phrygian problematic. Action has to be there for the meaning to be understood. For completing his doctrine, Prabhakar distinguishes between two kinds of words. Words that are directly experienced as in the commands, and words that are remembered, that are cognized and recognized. That is why I am telling cognition of words and recognition of words. The cognition of words cannot be the direct experience or direct words. The words cannot be directly understood, as we have told, without action. But the latter, it can be understood with reference to the universal they stand for. Okay, even for the remembered words, the understanding must have arrived only in relation to action done earlier. If somebody has already done an action and he has seen, then he can understand that word or that language. So according to Prabhakara, words have no meaning apart from the action they lead to, and the meaning of the word is the action to which it leads, and the word cannot have its meaning apart from the verb. Verb thing must be there. There must be a verb for the sentence, for the words to become meaningful. It has a lot of implication in the West that I am not bringing it here. Verb thing, verb. Therefore, according to Prabhakara, sentence is the unit of meaning. The sentence is an expression in which the words are already related. Sentence is the unit in which the words are already related and through their meanings, and this is the view which is called as Anvita Vidhanavada. This is what is Anvita Vidhana. Morning, Nirmali was talking about that from the standpoint of Bhartihari. I am not talking from Bhartihari. I am giving a critique of Bhartihari, but I am talking from Mimamsaka standpoint. Now, so according to Kumari Lavata, the word becomes meaningful when it is associated with a sentence and there is a verb associated with it. Verb sentence means there will be a verb. The vakya means ekating vakya. So Kumarila differs from Prabhakara and is of the view that a noun, even when not related to an action, can have meaning. It is like a sentence, this is a cow, uttered by an old man to a child, and the meaning is as primary as the meaning which we get from milk the cow. Like this is a cow and milk the cow, both are meaningful according to Kumari Lavata. This is another problematic that has come in the first statement that I made. A sentence will be meaningful if it is associated with an action. Like any action, like if you say that Jyotistomena Swarga Kamo Yajeta, you have to go to Swarga, you have to do a perform a yaga called Jyotistom. One example. This is a meaningful sentence. So what happens? Gravanaha Prastaraha Yajamanaha. There is a sentence that Kusagras is like the performer of the sacrifice. So this is just a statement of like existential. It is called as Siddhartha Bodhaka Vakya. So Siddhartha Vakya and Vidyartha Vakya, there are two Vakyas. One is a sentence associated with an action. Another is a sentence which is talking about something which is existing. It does not have anything to do with an action. Now, Prabhakara says all those which do not have action have no meaning. Kumarila, along with other schools, I will come. More than Kumarila, other schools later on, they say this will also have meaning. How they will have meaning? Suppose somebody says, Putraste Jataha. The example that is given traditionally in the Vedanta, especially in Ramanuja Vedanta, come. comes Rigala. So they say, Putraste jataha, a son is born to you. So this is a sentence which is Siddhartha Bodhaka. It is only talks about an existential phenomena that a son is born to you. And another example, Kanyate Garbhini, your onward daughter is pregnant. So when I say that, when somebody says that your daughter is pregnant, onward daughter is pregnant, and a son is born to you, whether these statements are meaningful to a person, the hearer or not, is a question. Now, according to Prabhakara, the sentence has no meaning at all because it does not talk about any action. But according to Kumarila, he says this statement is also meaningful. More than Kumarila, the other schools, I will come to that later on. So they can give meanings, the words can be meaningful. The words therefore have separate meanings according to Prabhakara. This meaning of a sentence is a combination of meanings of the different words. That is what is Kumarila Bhatta says, and words do not obtain their meaning as part of the sentences. This view is called as Abhitanvayavada. For Prabhakara, the meaning of the nouns are dependent on verbs, I have already told you. So this is the view which is given by the Nirukta. The Nirukta view that the noun is only the modality of action. Kumarila, on the other hand, treats the meaning of the nouns as independent of the meanings of the verbs. And here comes another problem. If you say that everything must be action oriented, then Kumarila Bhatta says, what are you doing? Like you are going back to to those schools who talk that Kriya is the basis for understanding a language. And this is exactly Sriharsa in his Khandana Khandakadya says that Prabhakaras are like Buddhists because they hold that the primary aspect of the world is activity. Artha Kriya Karitva, that is what they say. And if you say that Artha, the Kriya only is the Artha Kriya has only orientation for Artha, then how are you different from Buddhists? This is the question which Sriharsa Mishra asks to the Prabhakaras. Now Nyaya, to some extent, not fully, accepts Kumarila's view, which holds that words are understood separately and that meanings are combined after hearing the words. Thus, this is the doctrine of the relation of the meaning of the uttered words, like words that are uttered. But Prabhakara goes with the doctrine of uttering of words, the meaning of which have already been related. There is an internal relation between the words in a sentence, and you get the complete meaning after listening the sentence with a verb. So the Nyayikos do not accept Prabhakara's view that the child learns the language only when associated with an action. This is their view. They don't accept this view, nor do they accept the doctrine that words have meaning only when they become the part of the complete sentences. Okay. So this is what the Prabhakara view. Both Kumarila and Prabhakara reject the views of Bhartihari. See, there is a sphota, the concept of sphota is also differently understood in our tradition. So, the above discussion can be put in another way. How does a person understand a language, sentential sense? Does he understand the meaning of each word and join these words together to cognize the whole sentence meaning? If the answer is affirmative, this is what Professor Motilal says. If the answer is affirmative, then this is the view of Bhatta, like Kumarila Bhatta. That is, designation by words and connection of the meanings to form a unity is the process of language understanding. The designation of words, every word must have some meaning, and they put together, and then only you get the meaning. That is called designated. I have seen this designated connection. So this is what how Arindam Chakravarti translates it, Abhitanvayavada. Alternatively, Prabhakara is of the view that a person recognizes the meaning of the whole sentence by hearing the constituent words put together syntactically. In a syntactic manner, everything will have dependence on the other, then the complete meaning will come at the end. This is called as connected designation or Anvita Vidhana. In in Kumarila's view, the hearer recognizes the meaning of the sentence by figuring out first the meaning of the individual words, whereas in Anvita Vidhanavada, he recognizes the meaning of the sentences directly from the words, skipping the intermediate steps of grasping the like individual word meanings. In Bhatta's view, meaning of the words are assumed to be independent units as complete objects. In recognizing the meaning of a sentence, we take each and every unit and then connect these units to get the connected meaning of a sentence. Motilal says that, Motilal says that he gives a metaphor. He tries to put it properly. He says that in the first view, the distinction between word meaning and sentence meaning is one of the building blocks and building itself. Like according to the first view, Abhita Nyaya, that each meaning of the word is like a building block, and sentential sense is the building itself. The full sense comes. That is why Mutilal said that building blocks and building itself. In second view, we obtain sentence meaning directly from the words themselves. This means that for Kumarila, there is no intervening event between our knowledge of words and our knowledge of the meaning of a sentence made up of such words. This has implications that the meaning of words are context free. So for Kumarila, the words, the meaning of the words are context free. They are not independent. This means whatever the word means, it is connected with the meaning of other words in a sentence. This again means the word gets its meaning only when there is a context. The Bhattas, the Bhattas are of the view that the child learns his language by observation of the things of the world as used and adopted by the elders. By computing such individual meanings, we construct the whole meaning of the sentence. So Motilal takes up this issue to suggest that controversy between context and composition principle by juxtaposing them with the Mimamsakas Anvita Vidhanavada and Abhita Nyayavada, that is connected designation and designation before connection. Connected designation is Prabhakaras and designation before connection is Kumarilas. So Motilal takes up these three issues are related. There are three issues implied in this problematic. The first, does a word have a meaning only in the context of a sentence? Is it possible to know that a word means only considering the sentence in the context in which it occurs? Like, is it possible to know what exactly a word means by considering the sentence in the context in which it occurs? Third, given that we know the meaning of words constituting a sentence, how do we come to understand the meaning of the sentence as a connected whole or full sense or sentential sense? The primacy of sentence thesis, primacy of the sentence and primacy of the words. Primacy of the sentence thesis is the view of Prabhakara Mimamsakas as well as of the Vyakaranas. And Kumarila Bhatta seems to be emphasizing the primacy of the words in a sentential sense. That is what I am emphasizing so far. Such a view that sentences have primacy over words is accepted in the Western philosophers of language, like Frege. Some scholars, as I was telling before you came, Nirmal, have been trying for some times to locate how I can bring a breeze between the Indian philosophers and Western philosophers like Quine. But I have tried in some way, but today I'm not presenting that because I'm putting out the questions, because more of it, there is no time for discussing that. I'm not doing it. Just keeping the rudimentary out, like what is the basic salient features of both the schools of Indian philosophy as far as word and meaning is concerned, and how there can be There we can arise many questions out of it, which we should discuss in future. We must say that there is an internal relation between Sabda and Artha for accepting Nityatva of the Sabda and indivisibility of the Sabda. That is what his poetess does. Prabhakara finally would believe that in a sentence there is nothing linguistic which comes from the padas than the sentential sense which is understood by the apurvarthaka sabda. Apurvarthaka sabda. See, there is the sabda must have an apurvartha, the new meaning in that way you can say. So another way of looking at the difference between both the schools is, according to Prabhakara, the words express meaning as part of the sentence. For example, bring the cow, gam anaya, but ananvita gotva is connected with the bringing ananvita go. So, like, in other words, without the verb, the noun fails to give any meaning at all. Similarly, the child's way of learning and comprehending language is through connected sentence, which are being spoken as like connected sentence, which is being spoken as Anvita Vidhana of the Prabhakara school. The Prabhakara emphasizes this. The words cannot be understood by the children unless connected to the children cannot understand. He says all this also comes in the Shalika Natha and others. I am not going to that today. So opposed to this view, Bhattas maintain that words themselves can express their separate meanings by primary connotation like abhidha. They are subsequently construed in a sentence that expresses the connected idea, which is brought about by three factors connected with the language understanding, and that is akanksha, yogyata, and sannidhi. So that is what is Bhatta's view. Prabhakaras regarded word as constituents of language though they convey meaning only through a sentence. I have already told you, words, though they have definite meaning, become purposive only when they are used as a part of sentence. On hearing the words of a sentence, we get the unitary sense, which is the meaning of a sentence. Now the question is, this unitary sentence is a result of the collection of words, or through the recollection of the meaning of the words directly. So the collection of words, that is collection of the words, Kumarila Bhatta. Every designation name must be related to the other name, and the connection of all the meanings will give you the sentential sense, or recollection of the meaning of the individual words indirectly. That is what is Prabhakara's view. Every sentence will be meaningful only when you recollect the meaning of the particular word and connect it syntactically and get the meaning. Am I making sense? So first is that collection, cognition, and that is why I was talking about the cognition and recognition and trying to look at the Quine from that angle. Time हो गया? So ठीक है, 5 minutes, 5-7 minutes हो गया. So the Prabhakara's such an inspiration by taking this one. I have already told you the Siddhartha Bodhaka Vakya and Kriyartha Bodhaka Vakya. So this problem has its roots in the Mimamsa Sutra itself. Why two schools? Why two schools? The indeterminacy problem comes in the very problematic of understanding language itself. That can we translate what the sutras spoke? So the Mimamsa Sutra, tad bhutanam kriyarthena samamnaya arthasya pannimitatvat. This is the first sutra. It says, like, it goes along with Prabhakara's view, because arthasya tannimitatvat. It is only the artha which connects the things. So tad bhutanam kriyarthena samamnaya arthasya tannimitatvat means the artha connected to each other will give a syntactic meaning finally, by which you get the final meaning. Seems to be supporting Prabhakara's view. But Savaraswamy speaks of the primacy of the word meaning. For comprehending sentential meaning, he says, Padanihi swam swam artham abhidhaya nibrutta vyaparani. Each word will give its meaning and goes obliterate itself becomes non-existent, and abhedadinam padarthaha avagataha santaha vakyartham gamayanti. So the vakyartha will come when their meanings are connected together, and finally the syntactic sentential sense comes. Prabhakara explains by saying that the word should be understood as the meaning of the word qualified by one another. One word cannot give any meaning. To summarize the above, we can say that according to Prabhakara, a sentence becomes purposive by taking the sentence meaning, not the word meaning. Hence, there are many meanings. The unit of sentence meaning through the unit of purpose is what is Prabhakara's purport in saying that it is Anvita Vidhanavada, which is correct. According to Abhidanavada, as I have told you, so these I am skipping a little. So Vachaspati Mishra, he takes another view. Hence the knowledge of the meaning of the word is a kind of recollection according to Prabhakara. Kumarila also refers to this view when he says that a word is nothing more than a reminder of the meaning. Vachaspati Mishra is of the view that there is a relation between recollector and recollected. As far as word and its meanings are concerned, and the word produces the cognition of meaning by arousing the mental impression of things previously known, not directly and independently. So this is contrary to the view that words convey the meaning by abhidha, which Kumarila Bhatta accepts. See, the Vedantins by and large they accept Kumarila Bhatta, but there are certain like discrepancies, there are departures in this also. When we so according to I want to leave the Nyaya school. I want to discuss something about Nyaya and Mimamsa that I'm skipping. There are some authors in Mimamsa tradition who have tried to reconcile the two theories, and they say, looking from the point of view of the words, Abhitanvada is preferred, but the looking at the point of view, Abhitanvada is preferred, and from the point of view of a sentence, Anvita Vidana Vada looks to be satisfactory, and Mukula Bhatta accepts the combination of the two views. To conclude this part, I have Uttara Mimamsa again remaining another 5 minutes, Dr. Bagade. So the views of Prabhakara, which asserts the primacy of the sentential sense, looks to be an advanced version of the Kumarila view. But however, the modern Western thinking, starting from Russell up to Quine, emphasized on the sentential sense as the primary in the understanding of sentences. Though there is no discussion of this view in modern Indian philosophy, the West looked to be working on the intricacies of language understanding from different angles, which, as I told in the beginning, which we should be doing, trying to locate both, as Nirmalya Babu did in this morning, by taking all the things by fragmentally. When you take, it does not look, the whole meaning does not come, like you don't see the whole thing in the perspective. The context theory of Frege goes along with the Prabhakara view, taking both the paradigms into consideration. So we may say that the West is connected with the speaker's meaning. Please, this is one thing which I am putting forth before you. While Indian philosophers are concerned with the hearer's meaning, how I get the meaning, and what you want me to understand. There are two different things. What is the speaker's meaning and hearer's meaning? That is what I wanted to put today. So how the Aparusaya Shabda is meaningful with now I go another 5 minutes I take to tell you. See, this whole problematic is the problematic with regard to the Mimamsa, and Mimamsa is Eka Shastra. By and large, even Shankara, though he says that Purva Mimamsa need not be taken into consideration, when you go for Brahma Jnana, Brahma Mimamsa, he has not totally obliterated that you should not do, because in and through the the adhikar, in his scheme of understanding, he has put the primacy to the Mimamsa. Like, and other Vedantins like like Ramanuja and others, they say it is Eka Shastra. So when we took from that angle, I like the sentential sense alone gives you the liberation. That is the standpoint of Vedanta. And I would like to take 5 minutes to talk about that. So, so that is what Advaitin likes to argue. Advaitins argue that there are two types of sentences. That is, one is descriptive sentence, another is demonstrative sentence. Suppose I say John is wearing a shirt. John has a predicate of wearing a shirt in relation to John. In him, the other type of statement is demonstrative, like John is a servant. So, having gone to a place where John was, and upon asking who the person John is, it is told that John is a person who wears a shirt. Here, the interest of the person is asking the question is not to know the characteristics, but to know the identity. I am just inviting your attention to the concept of identity, which is, see, now so far we have seen two things. One is whether the word is primary in giving the sentential sense, or the sentence is primary in giving the meaning. The word meaning, and sentence meaning. These are four things we have so far discussed. So now I am taking you to another paradigm of understanding of language, which is promoted, which is projected, which is given by Vedantins, and they say that the language can give you the meaning like over and above the sentential sense. That is what I am. This is the question of like descriptive sentence and demonstrative sentence. The meaning of Advaita text is in the meaning of the Advaita text is spoken of as Akhanda Vakyartha. We have seen Akhanda Paksha today, this morning. Nirmali Babu spoke about Akhanda Paksha, but I am talking about Akhanda Vakyartha. In the sense, like this is that Devadatta, Soyam Devadatta. Here the intention is not to predicate the presence here and now. Please see, of the person who has seen at different place and time, nor we predicate him with both attributes of being present here and there. What we want to assert is the substantive identity of Devadatta despite the apparently conflicting attributes. The same is the case with Tattvamasi, where thou art that, you are that, where the intention is to understand the identity of consciousness despite conflicting attributes of limitedness and limitlessness. The same is the case with Satyam. Khatam kar deta hu. So the demonstrative, similarly, I have discussed a little about that. Now I go to my last presentation. The question is, in Upanishadic text you get like the words cannot give you the final meaning of the reality. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vak gacchati. The words cannot go. Na manaha. In Katha also it says asabdam, asparsam and all that. Conditions that objects should fulfill for making a word meaningful is given in Advaitic text, especially in the fourth sutra, Brahma Sutra, Tattu Samanvayat. In that sutra, the Sankara gives as to how do you understand the language when the language cannot give how do you understand the reality when the language cannot give you the reality? Is it not a contradiction? Like when you say Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya itself is a word, itself is a sentence, and it also comes in the word of illusion. If this is illusion, how do you get the meaning? Is a question which is discussed in the fourth sutra of the Brahma Sutra, and Sankara deals with this. And the commentators say that how do you get the meaning? Meaning is obtained through 5 ways: the Rudhi, Jati, Guna, Kriya, and Sambandha. Pancha Sabda Pravritti Nimitta. These are the 5 things through which the meaning is obtained. Rudhi, the conventional meaning; Jati, universality; Guna, characteristics, action or relation. I can understand somebody when I say his son, or I can understand he's a driver, or I can say that the character, all these things. But now this particular that Upanishadic statement which you take, that you cannot understand through the words. So these 5 Pancha Sabda Pravritti Nimittas will not be applicable in understanding Brahman. And how do you get it? So that is the question. So for that, the Vedanta becomes a pramana, and he says the 4 methods are given in our Shastras, especially in the Brahma Sutra, 4th Sutra. He says the Upanishad can manage to reveal Brahman by attributing mithya attributes, which you are not. You say that it is not that, it is this, but it is not exactly this. Suppose that the mithya attributes, revealing the sky by blue color. The sky is blue. Sky, like blue color, is only a superimposition. It is a illusion in perceiving the sky. So when you take away blue color, what remains is, so mithya color has to be, so blue water of the ocean. So sun can be referred as rising and setting sun. There is no rising and setting sun. This is how you understand the language beyond, understand the reality beyond language. Brahman is Shakshi. Brahman is, so second is by giving the incidental attributes upadhi. So a very famous example, Kakavat Devadatta Gruham. There is a crow on the top of the house of Devadatta. The crow is all not a permanent feature, but it is there. Like it is the consciousness can be revealed by the body. Body is not conscious intrinsically, but temporarily. The Dehi Kshetragyan, that is how the second paradigm of understanding language, reality beyond language. The third is the absence of attributes, like the spectacle free person. That means in a class there are many people, but the one person, so spectacle free person. So negative, so absence becomes an attribute. So that we have said the Nirguna Brahma. So without talking about Brahman, you talk about it through something else and refer to Brahman indirectly. You talk without talking, referring to two people and attributing one person. You give the, like neti neti comes there. Suppose you say this is all that it has, all that it does not have becomes the reality. So the idea is communicated without words. Words can give knowledge, intimate knowledge, and this is aparoksha jnana. So Vedanta talks about the reality. This is what is the akhandartha. I have dealt with the akhandartha, how exactly you get the akhandartha jnana, and akhandartha jnana comes up with akhandakara vritti jnana. It is a mental cognition. Ultimately, mind must be involved in understanding, but what type of a mind it is the question that has been dealt with in Uttara Mimamsa. Thank you for your patience, and any question is welcome.
Now the session is open for discussion. Anybody who wants to ask question can ask the questions.
Namaste, sir. So it was a very good presentation, but I would start my question, a kind of query, with a joke. एक छोटे से joke के साथ, luckily I found something which was very much related to the philosophy and language and so many other things. So मैं एक joke के साथ शुरू करूंगी. I think सारे बच्चे follow कर पाएंगे उसको. एक joke है सर कि बड़ी दुविधा होती थी, मैं हिंदी में बोलूंगी. बड़ी दुविधा होती थी जब स्कूल में गए और बायोलॉजी के टीचर ने बोला कि सेल मतलब शरीर की कोशिकाएं. फिर फिजिक्स की क्लास में गए तो फिजिक्स के टीचर ने बोला सेल मतलब बैटरी. फिर इकोनॉमिक्स की क्लास में गए तो टीचर ने बोला सेल मतलब बेचना, सेल द प्रोडक्ट. उसके बाद इंग्लिश की क्लास में गए तो टीचर ने बोला सेल स्विच ऑफ योर सेल मतलब फोन, मोबाइल. तो उसने कहा कि जिस क्लास में जा रहे हैं, हिस्ट्री के टीचर ने बोला कि सेल मतलब जेल. अब वो कंफ्यूज हो गया, उसने क्लास छोड़ दी, कहा जिस एक स्कूल में 5 टीचर एक मत नहीं है तो मुझे क्या पढ़ाएंगे. और फिर मजाक लास्ट में ये है कि लास्ट में मुझे सच्चा ज्ञान तब मिला जब वाइफ ने बताया कि सेल मतलब साड़ियों पे डिस्काउंट. तो इट वाज जस्ट अ जोक. लेकिन अब मेरा जो क्वेश्चन है सर वो ये है कि जो लोग भी आकांक्षा, योग्यता और सन्निधि को स्वीकार करते हैं बट दे डिनाई द तात्पर्य. जब हम होमोफोन्स, होमोग्राफ्स, होमोनिम्स इन सबको साथ अगर लेके चलें या अगर इनको इग्नोर कर दें, सो विदाउट accepting the idea or notion of tatparya or tatparya gyan, intention, how could we derive the meaning given in the same cultural, social and linguistic setup? So the cultural soup is same, language is same, the language is the English everywhere, but still we are having the different meanings depending upon whether it's homograph or homonyms or homophones. So this is my question, emphasizing on the importance of intention. So the second thing is, sir, it's not a question, it's just something I want to add up here, because I have read in the works of Professor Jaishankar Lal Shaw, he has used the term Karyanvita Vidhanvad. Karyanvita Vidhanvad for the theory of Prabhakar Mishra. So you have nowhere mentioned, even I haven't heard any speaker mentioning the term Karyanvita Vidhanvad while talking about the Prabhakar Mishra. So my question is, if Prabhakar Mishra is simply Anvita Vidhanvadi, then how he could be said Karyanvita Vidhadi? And if we are adding up the prefix Karya before the Anvita Vidhanvad, what difference does it make?
Does not make any difference.
It means
Yes,
the
I tell you 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Nice question, Nitu.
Niti, sir, Niti.
Niti.
Yes, sir. Niti.
Okay. The first question, this Tatparya, that becomes a very important concept in our especially Vedantic tradition. You know, there is a text called Vedanta Paribhasha, which harps on this concept of Tatparya as the only way of understanding reality. Tatparya kya vritti. He says how the Tatparya will come and where he takes. This is again, we have to find out whether the Vedantins are really following what is a Kumarila Bhatta. Because this Tatparya comes when the sentential sense comes, not the word meaning comes. So, Tattvamasi or Soham Aham Brahmasmi, whether the sentence gives the meaning or the words gives meaning, the question. So, Tatparya must be and this is what Abhinavagupta says, that each word will relate to other word and it will continue. So, he prefers, Abhinavagupta prefers Anvita Vidhanavata of Kumarila Bhatta, sorry, Prabhakara Mishra. So he says that each word Tatparya, and he gives a lot of importance. All Sahitya Shastra harps on this idea of Tatparya, how the meaning comes, because spoken is something, understanding is something else. You say something and meaning is something else. You know, there need not be any action at all. How will that be meaningful? Tatparya is very important, and I have not touched upon that because of the paucity of time. But the Tatparya is an important segment in language understanding. I have not done that, but all the schools, including Mimamsa, talks about Tatparya. That is number one. Number two, the Karyanvita Anvita Abhidhanavada and both are same, because it is Prabhakara Mishra who tells that what is the understanding of Sabara is only the Karya. Not when he says that the words will give you the meaning, he means the word meanings associated with the sentence meaning only will give you and sentence meaning is, what is the sentence? You know, Professor Mukhopadhyay has written an article, like I can send you. He says there are 8 definitions of Vakya. The Vakya in our whole tradition, 8 definitions have come, and each definition will have something to do with the thing. One of the definition is Ekating Vakya. The one verb has to be there for making even one word. There would be a hidden verb, then only it will come. So Karya, that is why Prabhakara Mishra becomes so important, but so little known. Even today there are many texts of Prabhakara which are not edited, not understood, and our scholarship is like wanting to work with that. You know, I think, you know, Madhu knows, Nirmalya Babu knows. Asutosh Mukherjee got scholars from South because he saw the Mimamsa tradition was dying in Calcutta. He taught. There are many books were written after Asutosh Mukherjee brought, sir. Like Lakshman Shastri Dravid was brought as the Mimamsa professor. He did not have any qualification at all. He did not go to any school, but he was a great scholar. Like Rajeshwar Shastri Dravid from Banaras was his son. So the tradition is not a flourishing tradition. It is I would not say that it is a dying tradition, but not many people. We don't have more than 5, 6 good Mimamsakas today in our country.
Right, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
I'm just asking a clarification which actually follows Niti's question, that Karyanvita Vidhanvad, which enables the Prabhakara to say that whenever there is any sentence which is obviously non-actional, like, the table is brown, or, very abstract theoretical kind of statements, still they somehow talk of an action. Is this what they try to say?
Yeah.
Can you please, kind of explicate this
Yeah, very correct.
with,
Very
with an
correct.
illustration?
Very good. So the problem is between the Siddhartha Bodhaka Vakya and the Kriyartha Bodhaka Vakya. Siddhartha Bodhaka Vakyas are those Vakyas which talk about the sentences having existential implication. There is a tree on the bank of the river. There is no action involved in this. But there is no action involved in this. But when you say this, there is a tree on the bank of river. What are the purpose of telling? Prabhakara Mishra says that, see, this all happens. He was telling in the morning, the whole paradigm of Indian philosophy, especially Astika Darsanas, most of them, not all of them, they work around Vedas. So the Vedic exegesis meaning to relate with Vedas. Okay. So now, when you say that you do a yaga and you will get something. So doing is the makes the matter understandable, like implication known. Now there is a statement that the prasthara yajamanaha, the performer is like the kusha grass, as important as the kusha grass. How is this sentence related to that sentence? Because the yajamana has something to do with the yaga. Therefore, after this sentence, when you say this is this sentence get related to that sentence and becomes meaningful. Am I making?
About their better philosophical statements on the Padartha or on the ontology. How would they relate it with that?
Like, how will the Samkhya school relate to the? Huh.
When you talk about number, for example,
Huh.
and these are previously very much distance from any kind of action. So how would they ultimately relate to action?
No. Okay. In Mimamsa, the major thrust is the performance of a yaga. Okay. Nothing else. So that is the reason why Sankara very carefully has distanced himself from the Purva Mimamsa, saying that all these are meaningful in spite of being not related to the action. But even that question has been taken up. Should you not tell? Ramanuja says, see, the Atmavare Drashtabhya. Drus is an action. Srotabhya. So listening is an action. So in that way, when Atmavara Drashtabhya Srotabhya is there, Srotabhya and Drashtabhya are actions. So in that way, you can say that Aham Brahmasmi is meaningful. So what is wrong? So you have to always associate this with that. But Shankara has a bigger agenda of dissociating that from this, because he wants that a person, in order to become Adhikari, should not have anything to do with the Purva Mimamsa. Or he must have done it earlier, but it is a little like when he talks about that, it is not. So this all comes when say Athato Brahma Jigyasa, Atha word, right? The word Atha, what does it mean? It should divorce action or include action is the question. Am I making sense to you? And like even Tattvamasi will have some ultimately what darsana. And darsana is therefore one. My thesis is this: Aporusetu in the starting and Aporusetu in the end. They are also no man, like person is not there. When you start, the Veda is Aporuseya. When you end in what? Tattva Jnana, the person is not involved. The person with whom? What is person? With the mind, with eye and mind is not involved. So here, Aporuseya from a different perspective. There, Aporuseya from a different perspective. Like Aporuseya, because Vedas came along with the Vedas came as a handbook of the reality, creation. It is not created by God also. So that is the standpoint beginning. And in order to understand, you have to dissociate yourself from being like a person with eye and mind. That is how the word operates in how where the limits of language. Who yeah exactly. You please. Pleasure.
Propounding the idea of authorlessness of Kurukshetra.
That's a very good question. Yeah.
Ended by saying this is the end. It is the very objective of philosophical enterprise undertaken by Mimamsa. So my question is, how do you justify this belief?
Very good. This question.
Philosophy means rationality.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And evidences we have for the authorlessness of Veda and all the metaphysical beliefs that are involved in this.
Brilliant question. Professor Bagale, I got your question. Now tell me what is this? No, no, question to you. What is this?
This is a bottle.
Like, is it a good bottle or a bad bottle?
Like question. This is not no counter question.
So this is a 1 minute. That is the, when you say this is a bottle, is there anybody who will say that this is not a bottle? This is the question which is taken up by Professor Mahanti in one of his articles, where he says that how do we understand what is authorlessness? What is authorless? Brilliant, very good question. Can there be a text which is authorless? How do we understand the authorlessness? Mahanti says, when there is the intention of the author is subservient to the meaning of the text, this is what is authorlessness. I am repeating. When there is a primacy of the object, okay, or preponderance of the object on and above the meaning of the author, that is authorlessness. Am I making sense? Statement facts are authorless, Professor. When you say this is a glass, it is authorless, because for everybody, so this is a authorless in another way. One,
It's a proposition, not the thing.
no, that is a different thing.
No,
That,
confusing
1 minute. You like confusion comes because you are talking about a proposition and authorlessness. No, this is a authorless proposition, because it is
intelligible to me.
just a minute. That is what I am not able to make it intelligible. That is I am telling, because I am not bringing the whole thing which Professor Mahanti, how he develops that thesis, that what would authorlessness mean. We have to, the author, that is another time I'll talk about authorlessness. What are the traditional views about authorlessness, and how Motilal looks at authorlessness, Mahanti and all other people, they have looked at this problem of authorlessness. Is there anything called authorlessness? Authorlessness, he says, when the intention of the author is totally subservient to the object that is described, that is authorlessness. Am I making sense, Nirmal? Exactly. Yeah. Question. I will give you. I'll send you, Naki. I'll send you. And I want that article also, which you referred today.
How I request chairperson of the second professor to come over.
It's okay.
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविंदाय नमो नमः. Learned speaker Professor Godavrish Mishra ji, delegates from different parts of India who is participating in the seminar actively, colleagues and students who are participating. एक्चुअली ये सेशन तो आनंद जी को प्रेसाइड करना था, लेकिन वो कहीं बाहर हैं, इसलिए ये जिम्मेदारी मुझे दी गई. मूलतः मैं भाषा दर्शन का विद्यार्थी हूं भी नहीं, और प्रोफेसर गोदावरीश मिश्र जी को तो ये तो मीमांसा के और भाषा दर्शन के प्रकांड अध्येता है. मैं इनके व्याख्यान पर मैं कुछ
बहुत टिप्पणी मैं कैसे कर सकता हूँ। लेकिन कुछ बातें जो मुझे लगी, 2 दिन से मैं इस सेमिनार को देख रहा हूँ, और कुछ बातें जो मुझे लगी और इस विषय से संबंधित जो बातें लगी, मैं आपसे जरूर शेयर करना चाहूंगा। भाषा और भाषा की अभिव्यक्ति और भाषा में व्यक्त होने वाला जो अर्थ है, हमारा जो विषय है वो प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ सेमेंटिक है, और हम लोगों ने प्रॉब्लम की चर्चा अभी कम की है। प्रॉब्लम से संबंधित जो विविध प्रकार के व्याख्यान आए हैं अलग अलग ढंग से, अलग अलग दार्शनिकों से, अलग अलग दार्शनिक पक्षों से, हमने उसकी चर्चा किया है। हमारी बेसिक प्रॉब्लम है कि व्हाट इज लैंग्वेज, भाषा है क्या, व्हाट इज द डिफिनेशन ऑफ लैंग्वेज, भाषा की परिभाषा क्या है, व्हाट आर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स ऑफ लैंग्वेज, भाषा के वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स कौन कौन से हैं, भाषा में जो कुछ अभिव्यक्त होता है उसके सार्थकता और निरर्थकता का पैमाना क्या है, उसका मापदंड क्या है, और क्या कोई ऐसी भी भाषा हो सकती है जो स्वयं अभिव्यक्त भाषा से परे की भाषा हो। भाषा का एक बहुत बड़ा पर्सपेक्टिव हमारे सामने उभर करके आता है, जिसके बारे में चर्चा, जिसकी समस्या को हमको समझना होगा, और शायद हमने उन समस्याओं पर थोड़ी चर्चा कम की है। अभी तक जो मुझे समझ में आया है कि हमने भाषा में अभिव्यक्त होकर हमारे तक पहुंचने की जो जो चीजें हम तक पहुंची हैं, उनमें हमने शब्द और शब्दार्थ की, पद और पदार्थ की, वाक्य और वाक्यार्थ की, हमने विस्तृत चर्चा किया है विविध दार्शनिक संप्रदायों में। लेकिन कहीं कहीं ये परिस्थिति भी हमारे सामने आती है जहां हम शब्द और उसके अर्थ को, वाक्य और उसके अर्थ को, पद और उस पदार्थ को छोड़ करके भी हमको अर्थ लेना पड़ता है। और यदि मैं मेंशन करूं, विशेषतः मैं मेंशन करूं, तो खास तौर से जब हम अद्वैत वेदांत में लक्षणा की बात करते हैं, और जब वहां जहत लक्षणा की बात करते हैं, वाक्यार्थम अशेषता परित्यज्य तत्संबंधिनी अर्थांतरे वृत्ति, जब हम इसकी बात करते हैं तो वाक्य और वाक्यार्थ दोनों को छोड़ करके उससे संबंधित किसी अन्य अर्थ की वृत्ति को हम लेते हैं। तो यह केवल क्राइटेरिया इंटेलिजिबल होने के लिए, भाषा में जो कुछ इंटेलिजिबल हो रहा है वह केवल और केवल पद और पदार्थ के माध्यम से, शब्द और शब्दार्थ के माध्यम से, वाक्य और वाक्यार्थ के माध्यम से ही अभिव्यक्त होगा। हमें लगता है कि एक चौथी क्राइटेरिया जो अद्वैत वेदांत दे रहा है, उसकी भी चर्चा हमको करनी चाहिए। और एक और विशेष बात जो इन चारों के अलावे जिसकी चर्चा हमको करनी चाहिए, और जो बड़ी महत्वपूर्ण चर्चा है, जिसको शायद हम लोगों ने छोड़ दिया है, कौन कहता है कि वह मौन है, कौन कहता है कि वह मौन है, अरे मौन की भाषा समझता ही कौन है। साइलेंस ऑफ लैंग्वेज इज अ काइंड ऑफ लैंग्वेज। ये जो मौन की भाषा है वह भी एक भाषा का रूप है, जिसमें न शब्द है, न पद है, न वाक्य है, न वाक्यार्थ है, मगर वो संप्रेषित हो रहा है। तो ये मौन की भाषा का जो विश्लेषण है, उसकी क्या क्राइटेरिया होगी। और ये मौन की भाषा इतनी सशक्त भाषा है कि हाथ में एक भीख का कटोरा लेकर के एक बच्चा जब हमारे आपके सामने दूर से आपको एक टक निगाह से देखता है, अपलक दृष्टि से जब वह एक भिखारी हमको हमारी तरफ देखता है, बोलता कुछ नहीं है, कोई शब्द नहीं, कोई वाक्य नहीं, कहीं कुछ नहीं है, मगर जो संप्रेषित होता है वह किसी शब्द और वाक्य के रूप में अभिव्यक्त होने वाली भाषा से ज्यादा सशक्त वह होता है। तो ये जो भाषा के ये जो विविध रूप है, इन विविध रूपों पर कहीं न कहीं से हमको इसकी चर्चा जरूर करनी चाहिए, कि आखिर इनकी, क्योंकि ऐसे 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 संदर्भों को केवल रहस्यात्मक कह के छोड़ दिया जाए कि ऐसी भाषा जो मौन की भाषा है वो केवल रहस्यात्मक है, ऐसा है नहीं। हमें उसकी क्रियार्थकता सीधे सीधे हमको संप्रेषित होती दिखाई देती है। और अद्वैत वेदांत के बारे में तो एक अद्भुत सी बात कही जाती है आचार्य शंकर के बारे में, जब कहा जाता है कि चित्रम शिष्या गुरु युवा गुरुस्तु मौन व्याख्यानम छिन्नस्तु सर्व संशया। बड़ी अद्भुत सी बात है। चित्रम वक्त वट वृक्ष के नीचे वृद्धा शिष्या गुरु युवा, बूढ़े लोग शिष्य के रूप में बैठे हुए हैं और जो गुरु है वो नौजवान है, 32 वर्ष के आचार्य शंकर। और गुरोस्तु मौन व्याख्यानम, गुरु का जो व्याख्यान हो रहा है वो मौन है, लेकिन छिन्नस्तु सर्व संशया, लेकिन सभी जितने सारे विषय जितने सारे प्रश्न हैं उनके शिष्यों के, उनका निराकरण होता जा रहा है। वो कौन सी भाषा है? जिस भाषा में आचार्य शंकर, जिस भाषा की अभिव्यक्ति में आचार्य शंकर तो मौन है और उनके शिष्यों की जो कुछ उनके उनकी उनके 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 प्रश्न हैं वो दूर होते जा रहे हैं, आखिर वो कौन सी भाषा है? हमें भाषा के विविध रूपों, भाषा के विविध प्रयोगों और भाषा के विविध संदर्भों को लेकर इंडियन और वेस्टर्न कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हमें देखने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए, क्योंकि भाषा से संबंधित जितनी सारी प्रॉब्लम्स खड़ी होती हैं, हम उन प्रॉब्लम्स को केवल एक ही मान करके चलते हैं और ये मान करके चलते हैं कि भाषा में जो कुछ अभिव्यक्त हो रहा है हमारे लिए वो इंटेलिजिबल कैसे बन रहा है। सवाल सिर्फ इतना ही नहीं है कि हमारे लिए इंटेलिजिबल वो कैसे बन रहा है, सवाल ये है उसको इंटेलिजिबल बनाता कौन है, ये शक्ति कहाँ है, ये स्वयं भाषा में है या भाषा के अर्थ में है या कहीं वो भाषा और अर्थ जिसको रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं उसमें है, उस रेफरेंसेज में, उस संदर्भ में है। इन चीजों के संदर्भ में मैं समझता हूं कि अगर प्रॉब्लम कायदे से अगर हम लोग अपने बच्चों को कुछ समझा सके, कुछ दे सकें और उनको सोचने के लिए अगर विवश कर सकें, तो शायद मैं समझता हूं इस सेमिनार की एक सार्थकता होगी। इसी के साथ मैं प्रोफेसर गोदावरी जी को मैं प्रणाम करता हूं। आप सर, मैं आपके व्याख्यान पर मैं कोई टिप्पणी नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि वो मेरा विषय भी नहीं है, और आप सर आपका जो अधीत क्षेत्र है उसकी मैं सराहना करता हूं। हमारे और सारे बहुत सारे कलीग्स जो बैठे हुए हैं, जो भाषाविद बैठे हैं, मुझ अज्ञानी की बात अगर आप लोगों को थोड़ी कहीं से अटपटी लगी हो तो क्षमा कीजिएगा। जो भाव आए हमने व्यक्त कर दिया, जो कुछ लेने लायक हो तो जरूर आप ले लीजिएगा, अगर नहीं हो तो मुझे क्षमा कर दीजिएगा। इसी के साथ मैं आप सबको धन्यवाद देते हुए अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। धन्यवाद।
एक्सक्यूज मी सर, कोई क्या पैरेलल सेशन का कोई लिंक भेज सकता है क्या ग्रुप ए एंड बी के लिए? So I need the link for the parallel session for group A and B.
It is already done.
Sir, I was supposed to join it. I don't know what happened. I didn't get the link for that.
It was offline.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Pandey, sir, for your very impassioned remarks. Now, I thank all the speakers and chairperson of the session, all the audience and those who put their questions. I thank them all, and I would invite all of you to IT in the library. All of you are invited. Please join us there.